else just as effectively. Send me the poll. I could throw a few old boys in there. Maybe I'll weasel my way into a few trades. Oh boy, maybe I'll pontificate on some options plays that I have zero understanding about that Joe can do. Maybe I'll throw a few bangs in there for the Katina man. No, obviously that's 100% true. Let's not even pretend that it isn't. But the market, hey, we got off the schneid a little bit here. And by the schneid, I mean off the ground. Because things weren't going so great yesterday, and things weren't going so great for most of the morning as it trended down. But look at that. Would you look? The NASDAQ right off of the bottoms. And, okay, started from the bottom, now we're here. We're not back at the top, so no Christmas trees, no V-shaped recoveries yet, I don't think. But, oh, yeah, had to take a fill, and the positions will show up. But we are looking distinctly better than we were before. I'm in Nvidia. Okay, I have an old trade in AMC. That's kind of like yesterday, same thing. But Nvidia, two plays. One, and sometimes you like both trades, the hold off VWAP, but then also the break of trend. I kind of played both of them. I'm out of the VWAP trade and only now in the breakout of the trend line here at 132.5. So I kind of feel like I shouldn't let it pass 131.84. But now that I've been able to get a couple of legs out, I think we'll play back into VWAP. You got to look at this market as everything's so fluid. There was a lot of panicking this morning. I think we were talking about this lesson of the day. Like, try to divide things into what's strong and what's weak. A lot of things have made a bit of a rally into VWAP, but then there's a few. Like Nvidia, this held on to VWAP. You know, it's up 3% today. The NASDAQ's up 0.3. Like, I know not everything is still cratering, but I want to be a little bit particular about what we try longs on and where we look for that continuation. Anything that you like short. You know, I don't think it's as simple as, hey, just short everything back into VWAP. For the record, the reason I'm in AMCs should not be shocking. GameStop did this, and I said, if we get another failed high, then I was just going to take that opportunity after GameStop made a fail high to short the next available pop. And that's the only reason I'm in it. Actually, we never really broke down too much past 4. The only way I add to this if I see GameStop do something. So I'm just sort of sitting in it. I'll probably have to bid back into the 4 level. But Nvidia looks strong to me as long as it can hold VWAP. This is the one, at least for now, that I'm really liking. Hopefully we can get to that 134. You're not going to put too big of a dent into yesterday's moves because they were extraordinary for a lot of names. That said, Nvidia is one of the few. If you look at when Powell took the podium, it got reasonably close. 134.5. I mean, Tesla's pulled back $30 and is still from that same time frame 40 away from the 230 level. Whereas Nvidia clearly has done a much better job filling in this gap lately.
Yeah, what a beautiful bounce on that Tesla as well. We were talking about that.
I was saving the 420, but
yeah, I mean, it's just like, okay, so like since about, was it 2019, 2020, market euphoria, 420 has become a little bit of a psychological level. It's shown up in the markets a few times, and it's like, yeah. And Neil was like, "Oh, I can't believe it." I'm like, "Yeah, no. I mean, I think I can definitely believe it. It's just like any other psychological level, right? If a lot of people think that something might happen at a certain level, and participants are willing to transact at it, maybe you get something there. Sometimes you get tops and bottoms. And 420 bounce. You guys saw when I was trading here. 420 was coming in from the downside, and I was like, wouldn't it be funny if Elon put a wall up at 420.69? And guess what, Neil?
It's true.
For 2 3-minute bars, Tesla knocked on the door of 420.69. There was a held offer, iced, ice, baby.
Doom, 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 digga, doom, doom.
At 420.69. And then it broke within 15 minutes later. But the fact of the matter was, it did hold for like a little bit. So I was like, it's just
something grabbed a hold of it tightly.
Yes.
It's fine. It's fine.
I'm sorry. Another one. Yeah, no, I don't know. I definitely missed that one there. And speaking of misses, it's been a while since I hit my daily risk limit. And that happened earlier today. You guys know I was trading Micron, so I will be trading on the demo for the next couple of hours, only 2 hours. So let's put in some good reps. But yeah, no, I'll talk about where I messed up. How I spent my risk a little too much, kind of falling into a bad habit, breaking my rules as well. We can talk a little bit about that. I did break a significant rule of mine, and yeah, market is just like, all right, well, if you're going to break rules, then we're going to break a little bit of your daily risk limit as well. So we're going to talk through all that and figure things out. But let's see what you guys voted for on the rundown with Sharif.
This is vanilla ice.
It's a good-looking list, Obi. Welcome, everyone, to the Afternoon Rundown, the show where you decide what we talk about every afternoon. Join us during the midday and get into the chat, or the How to Trade show, and get into the chat and vote for your favorite tickers every day. We've got some great ones for you, but let's have a look at the NQ and look at the major averages. The NQ actually up now about 0.25% on the triple Qs as well. The ES outperforming the NQ today, up 0.33%. And finally, the Dow getting its foot under it, about 0.75% in the green. Even the Russell marginally green, though, up 0.08. Let's look at the first ticker as decided by you guys, though. NVDA, great recovery today off the lows. It's green. It's up about 2.75% after really taking a hit yesterday. There was this headline that came in yesterday. It looks like Apple and Nvidia finally teaming up. We haven't heard these two doing any business together, whether it's Apple buying Nvidia chips or otherwise. Looks like they're teaming up here to supercharge a chat GPT-like LLM with the redrafter technique, guys. Both Apple and Nvidia green on the day.
Yeah, Nvidia up 3 points, and will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. I think if you turn off the lights, this chart will glow. To the extreme, I rock a mic like a vandal. Light up a stage, I wax a chump like a vandal. Those are more Vanilla Ice lyrics.
Okay.
Just,
all right.
I know I'm dating myself. I was also just explaining to Obi, and we'll get to this Nvidia in a second. If you've never seen Jim Carrey do Vanilla Ice on In Living Color, you need to treat yourself to it. And Jim Carrey, brilliant. Obviously, he's brilliant, but he was never more brilliant than when he was on In Living Color. I don't care what anybody says. So strong. Look, it's a strong stock. I don't think we had too many opportunities to trade off of some of the levels from yesterday. Like when I sat down, I wanted 127. I felt like you should wait for. It was bearish this morning. You should wait for some of the bottom levels that you like to try to get some capitulation longs. So I was really looking for 127. On Nvidia. It just never happened, as you can see. Just ended up doing nothing with it, even though 130 held. And the real miss, I think, was at VWAP. Feels like this happened so many times, like right at 11 o'clock, we finish the morning show, you give yourself a breath, and then that you miss like a huge opportunity. Well, it came back into VWAP again with a bit of a falling wedge. Was able to grab it. I'm playing off VWAP now. I think when you pull this one out to the daily chart, and I'll zoom so we can get the stock split, you're still in a bit of a downward channel, and I don't think all bets are off here in terms of Nvidia being a little bit weak relative to some of the other Mag 7. But for today, you held 27 once. We held it yesterday. You put in the higher low. This is above that initial close that we had on the test of 27. And as long as it holds on to this VWAP 131, I want to look for the longs. All bets are off, as I said. If we end up getting back into the 135, 50, 136 range, where we were when we got the drop where it all started, I always want to respect that as resistance. So, scalp into the original high, and if we get a pull into 136, that's another trade if it can break out from there. It's a for sure cover if we get any kind of a move that big, which I'm still skeptical on. I think there's going to be some short opportunities. Nvidia is not one of the ones I'm looking for. Let's just play off VWAP for now.
Yeah, it's after yesterday's strong sell-off. There were a lot of conversations about potential bounces, potential continuations, or just consolidation. And it seems like today, Nvidia, one of the market leaders, has picked a day to consolidate sideways, a strong sell-off. And all we've been doing pretty much all day is holding below VWAP in the morning session, starts to violate it, reclaims, holds, catches a nice little bid all the way up to 134.02s, pulls back in, and take a look at that chopping on top of VWAP now. So pretty much sideways on the day, hasn't really gone too far. Opening range, I guess, was in and around 130, 132s. We're trading 132s right now. VWAP 131.74. So nothing too crazy here. Not even doing any sort of significant relative volume. Interestingly enough, the couple of days coming into that strong flush off of FOMC, you can see it. It was doing relative volume, but today in the pre-market, nothing too crazy here. Sideways action on Nvidia. We'll see what this consolidation goes into by the end of the day. If we close well within this range, it could be something to watch out for. Today's high and low, 134.02 and 129.55, kind of that range, high and low. So let's see what Nvidia will do relative to those. But you can see the NASDAQ and the ES as well, pretty much relatively within the opening range. So we've pretty much done nothing but consolidate.
It's true.
The only Mag 7 name that's actually red on the day right now, Tesla down 1.5. A couple of different headlines, one positive, one negative. Obviously, the EU registration is not a good look. They plunge 41% in November, casting a shadow on the Q4 targets of over 500,000 vehicles that Tesla's earmarked. Separately, there was this headline, Tesla in talks of reportedly here with Austin to bring autonomous vehicles to Texas roads. We know that they have been looking at launching both in California and in Texas. This, by the way, was not confirmed by either the city of Austin or Tesla. It was someone getting this information using the Freedom of Information request, guys. So down 1.47 right now.
Well, it may be down, but it stunk for me except for the first like 10 minutes of the day on Tesla. So imagine like Tesla trends down and it's like, yeah, I went 1 for 4 shorting it. Sometimes it's like that. I actually just got into Rivian, oddly enough, but which is a weird coincidence because I feel like I always, every time we're on the show and I talk about Tesla, like afterwards, I usually mention something about Rivian, and in this particular case, Rivian just bounced off VWAP, so I just got into it. But Tesla's taking it on the chin today. The fact that this morning, you saw the frustration that had me get away from the short in Tesla and then move over and focus on Mara a little bit more because they both trended down, but one of which I was getting every entry right, and the other one I was getting every entry wrong. So which one should I trade in the downtrend? The one that I'm getting right, not the one I'm getting wrong. So I walked away from it, tried it on the way back, in through this close here from the 13th, and it wasn't able to hold. It was a red on the 15-minute, and it started curling there on a bit of a mean reversion play, but then it took out the top. Now you're getting more of a trend back in. I think Tesla is I do think it's a sell in a general sense after this move. And it was parabolic up. It came, technically it came right back into the first support level. It never broke. We thought it was a short in front of 460, so I only looked short. And obviously the idea was right, execution's no good. So I'm trying to use it maybe as a bit of a leading indicator and then work into things that make a little more sense for me or that have worked in the past. One of those is a similar play, but actually weaker on a similar principle. And that's why I'm in Rivian right now. Like this hasn't even gone red yet, but when I look at prior support, which was a big level, right in at the 1330, we already curled there once, and that's VWAP. And I like a VWAP afternoon trade, so we already curled there once, and then we just got into VWAP, so if Tesla's going to turn, instead of trying to find an entry in Tesla, let's just take a tried and true entry on a stock which has some confluence with it. So I'm in Rivian instead, but we'll be still monitoring Tesla. Missing the 420 long was nonsensical. And like the only reason why the reason I said to Obi, I can't believe it bounced off 420, wasn't because I couldn't believe it. It's because I couldn't believe I just watched it do it and did nothing about it. That's what I couldn't believe. I'm like, you serious? Like all of it, like it took several attempts, specific spots yesterday in the afternoon to try dip buys, but I didn't dip buy 420 today. It gets Tesla. Like sometimes that's just a level you got to take a shot at. But yeah, now it's starting to roll back over off of VWAP, so I'd be careful. This market, we saw what happened when it starts accelerating to the downside. You don't want to do any backflips that we've made a bottom yet.
Yeah, that was an aggressive flush on Tesla yesterday, and coming into today, I think VWAP is a great great tool to kind of use, and we spoke about this a little bit. I got a lot of lines on my chart, and I don't want to delete them off the bat, so I'm going to put in the one anchored VWAP that I do want to look at as black and bold, so it kind of stands out of all of them. And take a look at that. This is the anchor that's anchored to yesterday's sell-off. This is 2 p.m. when we got that FOMC news, accelerates off of that, and take a look at what we do in the morning session relative to this anchored VWAP. Now you can use references like after hours highs there as well. You can use references as, look, the bid finally came in during the end of the day, and then it topped up around 448, 450s-ish. I guess it didn't quite get to 450, but 448s. So coming into the day, we pretty much chop and churn. Intraday VWAP is this blue one right here. This is the VWAP set on the session. But you can see eventually it can't really hold above this prior day's anchored. We hold below 450 as well. 450 kind of being a level of interest, and it does show up as a pre-market low alongside that. So pre-market low pretty flat on top of the 250s. Coming in, you grab the pre-market highs, you wick down, you can't really sustain above session VWAP, and then you start trading below the anchored VWAP. Now I think you don't even have to get in on every break. You can see how choppy that is, but when it does flush and gives you that retest into that lower high, I think this was definitely a place to get involved there. You know, again, confluencing with those prior after hours highs and end of day bid high as well for the continuation to the downside. And yeah, oh boy, 420.02 is the low on Tesla, and it bids right back up into current day's VWAP right there, this same blue line. So it's like, all right, VWAP has been a good place, a good area to kind of watch this ticker as well, anchored VWAP from yesterday, but continuation to the downside after a little bit of strong selling and a failure to follow through of the 480 as well. Maybe, I don't know. A lot of tickers failing to follow through. I don't know if Google's on that list, but that 200 was a little intense as well a couple of days ago. But let's see if we have some downside momentum continuation on tickers like Tesla, which have been running up quite extended, might I add, off of some of their core moving averages there as well. So a little bit of a backside move on a continuation on the day today.
Bitcoin, guys, below 100,000 right now, about 98,000 and change. Yesterday, selling off aggressively after the FOMC meeting. Jerome Powell being asked point blank whether the Federal Reserve was looking or can look to create a Bitcoin or a Bitcoin, not trust, but I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Anyways, in any event, there was also the issue of rates with 4 rate cuts predicted for next year. Him saying that there was only 2. Bitcoin, obviously, rate sensitive, guys. So below 100,000 right now.
Want to trade some crypto-related names or anything out there that you want? Well, Trade the Pool allows stock traders like you to get evaluated and trade real shares using the company's capital with no PDT rule holding you back. Trade the Pool has just launched a limited edition program for a one-time fee of just $300. You'll receive $80,000 in buying power and the chance to become a funded trader. Hit a profit target of just 4% and you'll start trading with the company's capital. Get funded faster and easier with the new conditions designed for success. And the best part is the profit split has just been upgraded to a generous 70%, so you keep more of what you earn. Don't wait. Check it out now and see how Trade the Pool can help you trade bigger and better. Although I'll tell you right now, if you went long in the crypto names this morning, you probably weren't bigger and better unless you managed to catch the absolute bottom. No, Bitcoin lost 100,000 today. Now, in the grand scheme of things, are we freaking out? Like, I have a 15-minute chart up because I just wanted to sort of show you like what's been happening, right? Like, we lost to 102. There was a bounce initially early off 100. We got to 101. And then mini Huadong for a day trade sense. That's kind of like a bit of a flush. And we're back down underneath 99, 98 half or so, trending lower. So it has been not a great day. That said, you try to keep things in perspective. If you look at, okay, we finally made the breakout. This is the breakout of the long channel. Then we held some support at the 90,000 level. Since that consolidation, the last move up, you have higher highs, and higher lows. I don't want to draw, like I could draw this trend line, but we can all kind of see it. I don't want to muddy this too much, but we're still bouncing on the higher low part of the trend. It's not abject disaster. That said, if you weren't looking for something in the crypto space short this morning, I think it was a missed opportunity. I liked Mara and I liked it to 23. So that just sort of set up a few things. One, ideally getting this short here would have been the perfect entry in front of the 23 level, but when you miss the first trade or your first opportunity, just remember the original thesis was I like continuation short if it doesn't get above 23. When it broke out what was, and ignoring yesterday because it's a bit of a special event yesterday, what was the prior low ends up breaking down. That's like 22.30, slide to the 3-minute. What is happening when that breaks it down? Well, it breaks it down, tries to retest it underneath VWAP. So you have a prior support level. You like the stock to the trend to the downside, Bitcoin's going down, and you get the short underneath VWAP. So then it was like just short the pops. Now missed trade, and I don't know how much I like it here after the capitulation bottom at 20. Certainly I think I'd play it into VWAP if we get there. But this is the pivot to Tesla. I shorted Tesla and it just wasn't working. I was not getting good entries. Every single time I get in, it felt like I was timing it wrong. And the difference was every time I got in on Mara, it felt like I was timing it right. So which one was I going to continue to try to work every single pop in? Although that's a bit of a fail. I kind of felt like we were a little stronger in there. Should have taken this one on Mara or maybe even had an entry there. But you don't want to pick it too far apart. Just make sure when you have an idea or a trend that you like and it just keeps on confirming it, well, just keep on taking it until it no longer works or no longer sets up for you.
Yeah, so definitely. Speaking of trends here, Bitcoin.
Oh my goodness.
We pointed out this trend a little bit earlier this week. It's been holding since about mid-November, since we pushed past that 80,000 into 90s right here, and starting to leak a little bit below that trend line. So yeah, every time we do dip into these low to mid 90s, we keep getting picked up. But as of yesterday, look at this volume candle. One of the strong, would it was safe to say one of the strongest ones? Yeah, okay, we got a strong triple stack, 3 green candles right here. It's a 3-hour chart, but one of the strongest sell candles on Bitcoin there yesterday as we bid kind of a little bit past that 100,000 mark. Taking a bit of a turn here potentially. Let's see if this trend continues to hold here. And some of the tickers I'm watching for this trade, I guess, is MSTR. We know that MSTR has been giving us a good opportunity, and you can see right off the bat, I have this little trend line kind of marked in from similar times. But this trend line on MSTR starts all the way in September, and it continued to push up all the way until the middle or the beginning of November, when it started to accelerate, and we got that push through 500, right? And after that strong sell-off off of the 500, again, shout out to anchored VWAPs and Brian Shannon, we kind of put that anchored VWAP on the highest volume candle, which was pretty much capitulatory action into that 550 mark, and you can see how closely we've been kind of holding in and around it, taking a pullback down into this trend support potentially. Let's see what MSTR does as well as Bitcoin starts to lose some of its support as well. So yeah, all the way at 500, pulling back significantly into 300s. Let's take a quick look at Coinbase as well, see what that's up to. Pretty much sideways roughly for the past couple of months. You can see that as November, you can see that Bitcoin had that uptrend. Sure, we got a little bit of a push, but pretty much sideways action for over a couple of months here on, well, almost a couple of months here on Coinbase. So interesting look there, but I think that some of the tickers that are more closer following, like the iShares Trust, are a better trade if you're looking to trade that the one-to-one move on Bitcoin. But MSTR as well, probably decent as well because it gives you the volatility. It gives you kind of some of that move. Basically, all they do is hold Bitcoin and buy more Bitcoin. So
yes. Leverage is a fun thing. It can be very much fun. It can be very dangerous as well. And I don't know exactly what prices they're under a lot of pressure. But I just think you understand. Like for me, if you're investing in Bitcoin, like why not just have Bitcoin? Keep it simple. Why not have the ETF? I understand MSTR gives you some juice as a bit of a proxy. But yeah, I think it's a great trading vehicle.
Oh, it's amazing.
There's no question about that. For trading, I think it's absolutely fine. What's also good for trading, and this is crazy because when Sharif said the only Mag 7 name that was red was Tesla, it's weird. Like in my head, I thought, oh, like Nvidia is doing exceptionally well and Apple's doing well. I didn't realize that like Amazon, Meta, Alphabet, they're all still green. Apple's still relatively strong, and we'll talk about that now, but I was a little bit surprised by that because it was so bearish this morning.
Yeah, likewise, Neil. Above 250, about 1% in the green right now. We'll see how it closes. A couple of headlines. We already mentioned the Nvidia headline, teaming up with Nvidia to supercharge a chat GPT-like LLM. Separately, Apple still focused on China, especially with respect to AI, not just North America. In talks reportedly here to team up with Tencent and TikTok parent ByteDance to roll out features in Chinese for AI. So we'll have to see how that all pans out. Nothing confirmed yet from the company, guys.
Yeah, look, Apple, I think it's still relatively strong. We'll get that one out of the way. But it did do a bit of a failure. A couple of things. One, when 250 broke early, it was great for pretty much exactly $1. When it held the second time, when I tried, I got in and then out. I think it was still in the morning show, so you guys all saw that live. And then shortly after we ended the morning show, it bounced through 250 again. This is where you made that high. What I don't love about that is this was yesterday morning's low that it rejected. And it's the prior day support, like 251.75. Like where you have the hold, where you have the close of that opening candle, where you had the open of the rebounding candle. That's exactly where Apple curled. And it's now putting in a lower high off that. So I don't necessarily love Apple as much as I would normally say, hey, it's above $250. It's still relatively strong. It's where it turned that has me thinking, hey, man, if we lose 250, this is probably not one worth fighting. And wait for 250 for a rebound trade. I think that's going to make some sense. You know, when I was sort of saying that I was a little bit surprised some of the Mag 7 names were still green, it's not to say that they're doing as well as Apple. Like if you look at Alphabet's chart, it's not doing anything. All it did is fail the top at the open and then just hold on for dear life at $190 while trending down. Apple is strong relatively to an Alphabet. You know, when I pull up Meta here, load, I think you get a somewhat similar story. It's a little bit of a barcode, but again, just fail at the open, never make a higher low. So Apple's still relatively strong. I just don't like where it rejected, and the fact that it's making a lower high off of that level doesn't give me those quality feels. You know, I think you got to be more cautious with the longs this afternoon than the shorts. At least for now. It needs some more convincing.
Yeah, I think well within trend. I'm looking at a 3-hour chart here on Apple, and even after that strong flush that we had yesterday, didn't really get that continuation, but we did get a bit of a bounce here, coming right back up into a bit of trend here. Yeah, and what is this? Yeah, so I have anchors here from earlier, from prior earnings as well, right here, and we pretty much accelerated off of them again mid to late November, and I think that if we do pull back, we've definitely got room for a pullback if we're basing it off of some of those support averages or anchored VWAPs that we're running off of there. But a break of trend, not yet, and a little bit of a bounce here on majority of the morning session. But you can see we pretty much started to go sideways after about 11:30 here on Apple with a 252, just shy of 252, 251.85. High here on Apple, so nothing too crazy. VWAP, where is VWAP sitting at right now? Let me turn that on. We are holding above VWAP. So interestingly enough, aggressive selling yesterday and only getting picked up every time it comes into or close to that VWAP. A little bit of a double bottom here intraday as well. Where is that? Right, 249 halves, nice. And then a little bit higher here, stepping up onto 250 for a higher low on Apple. But it seems like the place to be on Apple is that VWAP, and it seems like buyers are in control as every time it does come to VWAP, it catches a nice little bid on the day today. So decent look on Apple.
Before we go back to Sharif, I just saw something from Chris L in the chat, and I don't disagree with your first comment here because I didn't realize this happened. Chris L, how in the, you know what, did AMD get Time CEO of the Year? That's Lisa Su. When they're going to finish this year red? That's a fantastic question. Because I have no idea. Well, okay, I have some idea how that probably happens, but you know what I mean when I say I have no idea. I think we all have some idea how that happens. But what I don't like is your follow-up, Chris, because we're in Toronto. So when you say that's like picking the Maple Leafs to win the cup, like that feels like an unnecessary shot fired at some Canadians here. So as far as I'm concerned, every single year the Leafs are going to win the cup. And then what's going to happen is when they do, because it hasn't happened in my lifetime, when they do, I'm just going to be talking trash to everybody. I say the same thing about the Buffalo Bills every year, and that's just how I roll. I say the same thing about the Toronto Blue Jays every single year, because that's just how I roll, because real fans are real fans. But the original comment about, like, I don't know, to be honest, what the heck is Time doing? Like, you've got to be absolutely kidding. I know we're going to talk about Micron in a second, but you have got to be kidding me. The only thing good about that, picking Lisa Su, and I have nothing against Lisa Su, obviously brilliant, and obviously this company has done phenomenally well over a long time period. But for this year, you've got to be kidding me. The only good thing about it is you didn't pick Pat Gelsinger. That's the only, like, that's the positive. You didn't pick Patty G. You didn't pick somebody that's in a worse stock. But how can that make any sense? Anyways, like,
what if it was like they went to Jensen Huang and he was like, yeah, I know, but give it to my cousin instead.
Or
Time Magazine lost its a long time ago. I'd say it's not as hasn't aged well with time.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
It's not the same prestige it used to be. Let's say that.
It's not just Dara that can pun, guys. Get it, Obi. All right, guys, Micron last on the list here. Tough look for Micron, down over 16%. Look, the current quarter that they reported on, they beat on the top and bottom line. It was the guide here that was a big problem. Revenue, $1 billion below estimates, EPS missing as well. The CEO trying to defend the company, saying, look, we're going to really be back on that growth path in the second half of 2025, but you're going to have to take his word for it now, guys, down 16%.
To believe it. When it's like, oh yeah, the guidance is terrible, but take our word for it, we're gonna get it back. The only trust me, bro, I want to hear is from Andrew Rader. Okay, I don't want to. You know what I'm saying? We know Andrew. I know when he's got something he believes in. I don't want to hear that from a CEO necessarily when you have that big of a miss on guidance. And then the timing of it, obviously, you can't do much about the timing. And I get that. It's probably not down 16% were it not for what happened yesterday with the Fed. That's certainly to an extent true. And the good news is, remember that level that we were looking to bounce off on the daily chart? Well, in addition to not taking a 420 long on Tesla, I did not take the SSR bounce off that level in the daily. And it was pretty textbook. Like, it trends down into it. It's not parabolic down, like it's not the strongest move to the downside. I think you could make an argument that should have been a long bounce, but it does give you a pretty decent trend. And as usual, it's those trades that happen right after 11 o'clock when we transition shows and you kind of let your guard down and you transition after talking for 3 hours. It's not a good excuse, but the amount of times that there ends up being a fantastic setup right after 11 o'clock when I want to go to the bathroom, it's like, you've got to be kidding me. Because that's when it happened, and it was pretty perfect into VWAP. But, it is what it is. And at the end of the day, I think you just got to let this one calm down for a few days. Yeah, the guidance was pretty bad, but let's be real. You have the August low, you have the September low, and you've now bounced off it on a day that it was down more than double digits. If it holds it for a couple of days, there might be a relief bounce in here. So I think today's Thursday, so it's probably more of a next week thing to look for some kind of a bounce, maybe back into these mid-90s for Micron. But not a very good day for them. Not much they can do about throwing out some bad guidance the day after the Fed pushed the market down. That's going to exacerbate a bad situation.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Fed pushed the market down?
Oh, okay, you know what I mean. Okay.
No, but
No, we should always speak more particularly. Like, obviously the Fed didn't push the market down. I think the market, you can speculate, probably reacting to the fact that we're getting less cuts next year, 2, possibly 0, possibly 1, who knows. Yeah. And I think people were looking for some excuses to take some profit and do some sell.
Reason to sell, right? It's just funny. It's just like when I look at so many charts, it's just like sometimes it's as if the price action can predict the catalyst. That's how I feel like sometimes. Ooh. But at the end of the day, it's just like what that tells me is like, yeah, sure, we can think about it, talk about it all we want, but at the end of the day, I think you're 100% right. I think people are looking for reasons to buy and sell. I think people are looking for liquidity, whether it's exit liquidity or something to enter on, events to kind of reposition and position, and that kind of happens to be how things play out sometimes, more often than not. But price action, again, is a very beautiful and interesting thing, and that's why, again, I know that Neil definitely agrees with me on this. Price action is always king, no matter what.
It's like ball don't lie.
Exactly. Yeah. So. Thank you. I have played some basketball. So Micron.
Yeah, that was mine.
No, I deserve it. I definitely deserve it. I literally don't get, I would say 60 to 70% of references made. But you know what? We get some of them. But yeah, no, Micron, oh boy. So I can talk about Micron, and then I can talk about how I foolishly hit my daily risk limit, above my daily risk limit, to say that, blew past it. Absolutely disgusting. But on Micron today. So Micron, beautiful kind of sell-off there off of the earnings reaction. We already came in pretty hot with the FOMC bringing in a lot of that selling coming in with expanding volume going into the close, and then all of a sudden the report comes out. Now I was like, all right, well, the report comes out with a beat on EPS, but a miss on revenue, so it's it's about half and half, single beat. Flushes to the downside, bounces off of 95s and back to the downside, and holds above this 85.57 level. So surprisingly enough, we come in on the initial kind of flush off of the open. We break that pre-market trend. We break back down below anchored. We hold below session VWAP as well. Aggressive selling comes in and bounces cleanly off of the 85.57. And then we consolidate, making lower highs, and then again watching the tape here. It was pretty straightforward that sellers were still in charge. Any sort of aggressive pop was met with selling underneath this 87, 88 level for a push lower. And I was like, all right, cool. That gave me some strong conviction to stay short. And I was telling myself I need to stay with this trend. Yesterday I lost almost my daily risk. Trying to fight the trend. And I was like, oh boy, I'm not going to come in and do that again today. So I stay with it. I'm like, all right, finally it's working. I'm getting short. It breaks down. It actually reserves on the bid at 85. So now something that I can definitely improve on. What I did well was I got with the short. I understood that it was a short coming off of the open. The price action told me that it was a short. The sellers were definitely in charge. And how did I know that? It's an SSR name. So that's a market mechanic we can use to our advantage as a little bit of, to give us a little bit of perspective on the ticker. When an SSR stock keeps getting hit on the bid and the bid gets taken out, it means that people who already have inventory, people who are already long, are hitting the bid, because only people who are already long are allowed to hit the bid in an SSR stock. If I want to get short, I have to wait for an uptick to get filled. So I'm chasing it down through the 89s. I have good prices, but I don't have the kind of size I'm really wanting for this trade to get in. So I get in short. I short all of these pops. Maybe I get stopped out. I think I did get stopped out a couple times on these pops, and I realized I'm keeping it a little too tight. I need to be risking all the way up to VWAP. Okay. So I make that decision. I'm like, all right, I get short. I cover nothing on the held bid at 85. So that's one mistake, right? So seeing a strong bid show up and a reserve on the bid on an SSR stock is reason to, I would definitely say, is reason to cover some, if not a decent chunk, decent portion of the trade there. If we do bid back up, we bid back aggressively all the way to 86.40s, and then we finally do break that bid. So I'm getting in all throughout here, and it finally, I'm kind of well in the money below 85s, and I'm looking for that 84. I'm anchored to that 84. Now, because I had such bad prices and I got aggressive in and around that 86 half area, my average ended up being around 86s, just above 86s. So we push down, break below that 85, flush below, and then rebid. So right here, when we rebid back through that 85 reserve, I need to be taking some off because we showed that 85 was a strong bid. I had to respect it the first time, and if I did, it definitely would have been a little lighter on the position, but I did take more on the back through. But the thing is, this should go right away, in my opinion. So if I don't see that happen, if I don't see us go to 84 right away, we actually stall 84.60s and bid right back up quite aggressively, might I add, through that 85, I have to start piecing off and I have to start looking at the break of this trend right here that we've had since VWAP to get almost all out of the position, because now right here, downtrend off of the open accelerated. The accelerated downtrend starts to slow down, even though we're still downtrending. But here, really, in and around 686s is where this trade is absolutely wrong. Now, I'm still in the mindset that, oh, I need to give it to VWAP to give this proper risk. Guess where I stop out, Neil? I stop out on the rush through 87s past VWAP, but my average is down here at 86s, and I am over leveraged on the trade. So it's like, all right, I have a bit of a deer in headlights moment where I know I should be getting out, but I'm also kind of, I guess, torn in between where my risk should be. I'm like, I know it should be in, and ultimately it's at that VWAP, right? Because that's where it's shown us off of the open. But in terms of my risk to reward, it's skewed negatively. I'm willing to risk a lot more than what the trade has given me at the same time. So that's kind of where I was. I was kind of lost in the moment, kind of stuck into the trade, anchored to being in the money. Kind of, you know that I forget which experiment it was, and I always get reminded of it. It's like they put a bunch of mice or rats in a bucket of water, and they basically swim, and then they basically drown. But if you give that rat a ray of hope, so you take it out of the water, you kind of dry it off, you give it that hope that, yeah, you can maybe be able to survive. You throw it back into the water, it drowns, it will fight for its life to survive for the next time. And that's the same kind of mentality that's at work here. So I'm well aware of the psychology behind why I'm getting stuck deer in headlights behind it. But this is one of my, I think a trader I was talking to earlier said, yeah, it's one of his big leaks too. And it is a huge leak of mine, where some of the biggest rips that I take is exactly in that moment where the trade shows me that it's working. It gives me that hope that it's working. I see that I'm in the money, and it starts trading against me, and I'm unsure as to where to really allocate my risk, even though I know an ultimate stop is there, even if it's past my daily risk limit, and I get stuck kind of anchored to that and end up punching out ridiculously out of the money, blowing past my daily risk limit, which is totally unacceptable. But you know what? It's something that I am definitely
You're being too harsh on yourself, one. But I think everyone should appreciate the honesty.
I mean, I did well getting short.
What I would say is, like, you're shorting the best stock to have shorted. The other thing is, literally every trader that's ever existed, that's ever spent any time trading the markets, has had that exact same problem. And I'll tell you, I don't care who you are, and anybody that says they don't, like the trader's like, I make money every single day. No, you don't. And you've definitely had a deer. I've done it, and I've done it spectacularly myself. I think everyone it's almost like into two categories, right? Like, you either lean into sort of that side of it where it starts going against you, and at the first sign of that, you're like, I'm out. Mm-hmm. Or you're like, oh, no, you make it, you're in the other side, no, it's still good, it's still good. Both of those things tend to be overreactions in a general sense, and you want to be able to stick to your plan. So like sometimes some people overreact one way, or some people overreact. I know I'll overreact to that. Oh, I end up getting it all out, and I'm like, that was actually a place to add. Yeah. And so sometimes you just got to figure out which one you have, and then you try to minimize that to close to zero as possible, never to zero because nobody's perfect. But you might have heard me under my breath be like, ooh, yuck, that Xena stock. I don't have a pun for Xena. I haven't seen that show in so long that I don't remember enough.
Slashed to the downside.
Yeah, you get slashed to the downside. I don't have too much. It opened back up after a halt down at 10, got down to $8 and is holding underneath VWAP. So I saw someone in the chat that just said, Xena's going. It could be a good one this afternoon. I was like, yeah, it went. The past tense is important on that one. Obviously. And we had the super chat in there. Okay, so two things. I got back into Mara as Bitcoin started rolling over, and Nvidia got to VWAP, so I reloaded off VWAP. It's barely holding on. But we got a super chat. Thank you very much for the $10 super chat. You know, we appreciate them all. I'm not going to say the name. What is the assessment of Trader TV on the potential government shutdown in the U.S.? I can speak for myself, not for everybody on the show. Not sure if this was mentioned yet. Could this be why the VIX is pushing higher? Is this a combination? So generally speaking, typically the whole will the government shut down? Usually it solves itself and it ends up a bit of a nothing burger. However, there have been temporary hiccups which have caused some spikes, short-term spikes in volatility. So I feel the same way about this phenomenon as I do about Micron's earnings. Yeah, the earnings were bad, but will you really be down 16% if we hadn't had that move, that reaction to the Fed yesterday, where I think the real thing was people were looking for excuses to sell, the change to the confirmation of probably looking at 2 cuts from 4 next year. That gave some reasons, and then now everything else just piles onto it. I think that's going to provide some opportunities when they do get funding back. I think those are going to be a good opportunity for maybe some names that bled too far that are still strong. I don't know why I'm still looking at Xena. It probably doesn't matter. It's ridiculous. I have no idea why. I'm still on the stock and I can't believe it's happening. No, but Mara. And again, you just try to stick to the things that are working. Well, Mara did another curl. I wasn't completely convinced on when it was making an upward trend. So I kind of wanted to see, it break the trend before getting into a short. Hopefully that makes sense, right? In the morning, it was every available pop short Mara. Who cares? It goes up, look for a curl. Once you see some confirmation, just get into the short. This was different because I think you made a bit of a decent bottom here at the $20 level. So when I put in the higher low, it's there's it breaking the trend here when it fails to break out, and there's the consolidation underneath the trend. So that's the reason for back into Mara short. 1, because it's just been a good short, and 2, because it actually gave me an entry setup. So we'll see what happens with Mara, but your warrior princess Xena, it's actually Xena, not Xena, that stock. Running into some trouble. Is that Adara in the chat? Yeah. This stock is lawless. My attempt at a Xena pun. Thank you very much, Adara. Adara not even feeling well, and she's still jumping in the chat even though she had to take off. Get better, Adara.
Yeah, we hope you get better.
Complete trooper this morning, everybody. I can't believe. I was surprised. I'm wow. She was definitely putting in work. We appreciate you. Angry Bear just said Intel low of the day. I for one am completely shocked.
No way.
I mean, you could.
Oh, did you see the shake and bake that happened on that thing? I think
shake and bake,
Yeah.
Shake and bake.
Shake and bake. Tackle and grapple.
That's even better. That's
nice.
You know that one, right, Joe? Yo, tackle and grapple.
Tackle and grapple.
That's a tackle. No, Intel at the low. Come on. Yes. Is it a day that ends in Y, and is the market looking weak? Then the answer is Intel's probably headed down to the lows. I think you're getting a test here of, we're not there yet, but the 52-week low, I see 1850. What's the actual 52-week low here on Intel? 1851. Okay, so every now and then you just look at the line on the chart and you get it right. No, it's definitely looking relatively weak. At the end of the day, it's just not a good stock. I think it's a short till it's not, although I wasn't looking short on it today. I don't have a very good reason. Oh, you got to be kidding me, Nvidia. Reload, there's my out. Don't give it extra room, and look at Nvidia. Now you're getting a rounded bottom. Well, here's the execution rule to get back into this, because it was a pretty distinct downward trend. If what ended up working was the break of the trend, let's see it do it again. I still think this is a name that can work for the long side, so let's see it hold above. Ideally, this is going to end just holding and closing above VWAP, and that's the same thing as holding the trend line. But this is a stock that I'm still looking for longs. Tony just said sweep the leg. The problem is Intel's done more than sweep the leg. Like, you got to come up with a different move for what's happening on Intel than that. And someone let me know how the new season of Cobra Kai is. Should I bother watching it? I haven't even started. I feel like that one, it took too long for the new season.
I started the first season.
I don't know if I should bother with it, but come on, Nvidia. I want to get back into it.
You've seen the whole first season?
Oh, I've watched, I don't know what season it's on, to be honest with you, but I'm pretty sure I'm caught up to whatever the current season is. I haven't watched that. Whether that's 4 or 5, who keeps track of these?
I started watching the first. It was pretty good, and then I kind of fell off a little bit. But it's not because I was bored of it. I kind of just fell off. But it was pretty good.
You're young, so like to you, like I was a kid when I saw the original ones in the theater. I saw the movies in the theater.
The movies are great.
When I was a kid, so it's a little different. Like the thing, what I think is smart, and everyone tries to mock Disney and everyone for these remakes. Yeah, but if you get free money for the nostalgia people, then what's the harm? Like, you're just gonna sucker people like myself to watch anything. Like how many times are you gonna convince me to watch a terrible Indiana Jones movie just to rekindle my childhood? Why? Because my pops took me to the theater to see those movies. So I'll watch every single Indiana Jones.
You saw the new one, the Crystal Skull one?
It's horror awful. It's so. No, there's one after that, and it's even
another one.
It's literally worse, man.
Okay.
And I do the same thing with Star Wars. I go opening weekend.
Yeah.
Because it's just to me, it's the positive memories, but they all stink, and it's free money. So why wouldn't you? The reason you get bad movies is because it's free money to make some of them. So you can't hate, man.
Yeah. I mean. They keep milking a lot of these. Like, for example, you want a great example of something that's being milked like crazy. Fast and Furious. There's literally like 10, 11 movies.
You mean Point Break? All right.
I think I've heard of it, but I don't think I've seen it.
No, it's Fast and Furious original movie is a literal 100% copy of the plot of Point Break.
Really?
With Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze. From
okay, I gotta watch that.
It's in like the 80s. But it's exactly the same. The only difference is instead of cars, they were like extreme athletes. Like they jumped, skydiving and snowboarding and surfing instead of driving fast cars. The rest of the plot, literally the same thing. Straight up copy.
I think my favorite movie, I might be a little biased out of the Fast and Furious ones, was the third one, Tokyo Drift. Because I was like, I'm a big fan of drifting, so I might be slightly biased. I'm like, anyone can drive a car really fast in a straight line, but do you really have the skills to make those turns effectively? That's I kind
of thought that was the worst one.
Really? That was the worst one?
Yeah. Okay, back to the markets for a quick second.
Let's pivot and drift onto these tickers.
Little pivot. We haven't closed this candle technically yet. We won't for another minute. But you've got the bottoming tail. So prior bar low here sits at exactly the same stop. So it's more or less the same trade on Nvidia to just jump back in and give it the same risk. I think it's got room for $1.20 into 133. So I like the risk to reward on this bad boy. Back into Nvidia, I could have just given it more room. I heard Joe say this, and I really liked it when he said it. Sometimes, like if the market's relatively weak, then I'd rather take pot shots at the long, maybe give your shorts more of a chance, but I'd rather take pot shots at the long, be willing to get out and get back in when you show confirmation. Because when it's trending down like this, why the need to buy that dip? You can let it make this entire move down, stop people out like myself when I got back in, and then try that trade. You could end up with the same result, but from what I've seen, over time, if you take this entry, sometimes you won't even get a better price. You'll actually get a worse price because you're not buying it. If you consistently take this entry instead of that one, what I've found is you'll just be more consistently profitable. And most of the reason is you're joining a reversal move as opposed to trying to find the bottom. And you're more apt to try to make this work by giving it a wider stop or by buying a lot in here. Whereas oftentimes I find when I get this entry, I'm in, this is my in, and I have my stop, either the prior bar low or the actual low. And that's it. I don't have any reason to add. I don't have any reason to hold it past my level. And those are the ones that I do like. So it could head lower. And I think if we end up breaking back underneath this trend, then I think I'm talking about myself, I just back off. Like at this point, it's making some lower highs. So we'll give it that trend break for the scalp trade. But if that doesn't work, I'm still favoring some shorts. I just got to find something else that I like. I still like this Mara.
You say you're
just dipped into 2020.
Looking for a short?
Sorry, I'm going to zoom in here. Okay. So this is coming back in. We had our short. It broke trend, but it popped off of first resistance here and is headed back higher. Bitcoin's still under 97,000. I'm not terribly concerned about it, but you are, again, breaking trend here. Well, you see a good short?
No, that's what I'm looking at. I thought you were looking for a Bitcoin, like a crypto-related short, because I did see Bitcoin pulling back into 96,000.
That's why I took tomorrow.
And I'm like, all right, well, maybe not just Bitcoin. What about some of these other tickers that might be relatively, weak on the day? And if we see the NASDAQ kind of continue the sell-off that we had going into the close yesterday, without that sell-off started around 2 p.m. with FOMC, of course, going into the close and accelerated even further. He stopped talking at 2:30. And was there a reversion? Oh boy, I tried. There was no bid. And I was telling Neil this as well. In terms of a percent drawdown, I went back and looked at a bunch of charts last night, and I was like, well, how strong of a sell-off is this really on the daily? I looked at the diamonds, I looked at the NASDAQ. I'm like, all right, people are saying we haven't had a day like this since whatever. But I'm like, I look back. There are a few days where, yeah, we did sell off 2 to 3% in the past couple of months. But the thing that I noticed was we didn't have a sell-off that was so consistent without any sort of relief all at once. We've had drawdowns on the S&P for that were like 2% down, 2.6%. I think there was one a couple of months ago as well. I don't remember the exact dates, but I was just like, that was very aggressive. That was surprising to me. I'm like, all right, there's no reversion, there's no sign of a bid, and it's pretty much purely selling. Whoever was on the bid definitely pulled the bid there and just let it kind of drop. And yeah, I guess it was a great time to buy as well. I heard that you guys were buying up some different equities and ETFs at the end of the day yesterday. I think it was a good sale.
I think on your if the way I would approach days like yesterday in the market, if there's a stock that I was looking to add to my long-term portfolio, and I'm like, oh, I want to start dollar cost averaging on the next available dip of this thing, then I would pick it up. Like, it's just how I roll. So I mentioned Boeing because I missed a breakout. What I think was a breakout trade I missed on Boeing. So just a quick example. Like, I wouldn't buy just anything. But to me, Boeing broke trend here, and I should have had it somewhere in this range. I just didn't take the trade in my PA, and I wanted to add. I already own some Boeing, but yesterday provided you a dip into the lows off the 200-period moving average. I'm like, okay, like that's a good spot. I want to buy it and hold it for the long term. So I took a shot at that, and then there's one I think we'll be able to. Yeah, I should double check. I should have been filled here on block. Block coming into prior high was another one as well. I'll have to double check. I don't know. I might not have gotten filled. I had to double check where I put the order because the prior high on block in here just came in and it's coming into the 50 and 200. And this is what I wanted to add back into the 200-period dollar cost averaging in. So this is another one. I may or may not have gotten filled on it, but I think you put out the shopping list. Like sometimes I'll just say dollar cost average the Qs. That's something I do on a regular basis, but I might like it a little bit more on a panic day, knowing that that's just a buy and hold forever, and it's a good time to add, generally speaking. Sometimes those panic days, if you look back and you just said every single 3% down day in my lifetime, I was buying the index.
Yeah.
If you think that you wouldn't have done well, I got news for you. What's Tesla doing? I see a lot of people talking about Tesla is revealing sideways. Tesla's bouncing off 430. Okay. Yeah, let's pay attention to the fact that Tesla's trying to bounce and the market's not doing a heck of a lot. Rivian's still holding consolidation. On the 15-minute, to me, this one still looks fine. It's holding my lower high. I got one fill in there, and it's still, like I said, it's holding a lower high. I'd like it to work back down into 13 and then maybe into the 1280 range. But for now, it doesn't look that bad. KD Dumpster, please no, you've got to be kidding me. QUBT's down 44%.
What? Backside. Oh, wow. Look at that. That is beautiful.
I don't even...
Oh, my God.
Oh my God.
What? Yeah, that's right. There was the other ones. Well, it doesn't really matter. There's Ion Q, but none of them would have moved as much as QUBT. Sometimes this happens. Hey, maybe you wanted to get into this name. Maybe you like this thing, and you're like, I don't want to get into the quantum names too early. Well, maybe in the next couple of days you get a chance at a reasonable price. I'm not here to tell you I believe in one of these over the other, but sometimes you get the shopping list out. I generally think in the panic buy, I'm looking for things that I want to hold forever. Like the type of stocks that if it came in tomorrow and it was down 25%, I'd see it as a buying opportunity unless something catastrophic happened. That's the kind of thing I want to buy on those little dips like yesterday.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Neil, and something that I did notice, and I was talking to Wayne in the back last night about this as well, and I was like, okay, well, when we look at the breakdown of some of these ETFs, we got a lot of names that are red, that close red, but there were a few names, Neil, that actually closed green yesterday after the bloodbath. Now I know I have a list here. I got to go back to our conversation here on Discord. I sent a bit of a list here of all the tickers that did close green, and on the Nasdaq there was only one ticker that was green on the Nasdaq 100, and it was only up by 0.33%. So that was very interesting to me. I'm like, everything else is getting sold off pretty aggressively, and there's one ticker here, and I looked it up, and I was like, do they even do relative decent volume? And yeah, guess what? Today, they did about 8 million volume. They do an average of 6 million, and look at the move. This is EXC. This was one of the few tickers that was green on all three. I think it's in, I don't know if it's in the diamonds, but definitely both the ES and in the NASDAQ right here. And take a look at the move that we have gotten today. So this was a list of names that I had on watch just to see how they performed coming out of that bloodbath. And guess what? This is up about 3% on the day, 3.26%. Now, right away, what I want to do is, I was going to do this when I went home, but I'm more than willing to do it here with you guys, is to see what the ATR on this ticker actually is. Like I said before, I have no idea what they do. Exelon Corp, but one of the only ticker out of 100 tickers yesterday that closed somewhat green, up 0.33%. The ATR is 65 pennies, Neil, and today we did about $1.20 from the opening range low to the current day high. So almost a 2 ATR move on this name. And has it been doing relative volume? Yes, it has. Yep. It's doing 2 times relative volume on EXC. So that might be a decent look. So next time a market sells off like crazy, now I know we don't have that very often, I'm sure I'm going to look at this same kind of stat. Here, I have the image open right here from last night. Here, I'll open this in a new tab so we can show you guys. So this was the screenshot from last night. The Dow Jones right here, the top 30 names, UNH was the only one that closed green. Everything red in the diamonds except for UNH. Now this kind of thing was consistent with a lot of healthcare tickers. So that I asked the question. I was like, well, we know UNH has been selling off aggressively. Is this a sign of capitulation where the whole market tanks, but UNH finds a bid on top of VWAP while the rest of the market is bidding, but coming in today, no real continuation. That bid was all it kind of had, and we got that aggressive selling coming in today. So again, interesting.
You know what else is
action.
there?
What else?
On UNH? On the weekly chart, UNH is bouncing off the 200 period moving average on the weekly chart. And you have to go back. The last time that this really breached the 200 period moving average on the weekly was COVID lows. And then most recently, early in the year, like when we had that, essentially the April bottoms, you had one close underneath, and then look at the moves, and look at what has happened when this has breached the 200 period on the weekly on UNH. The following week here, you had the biggest up candle on the week of the year, and the same thing happened. So since COVID, Twice UNH has broken this 200-period moving average on the weekly. And both times, the week of recovery was its biggest up week. Now, the difference is you're not, barring something crazy tomorrow, it doesn't seem like you're going to close underneath the 200 period. You're going to challenge it, but you're probably not closing underneath after today's bounce. That said, it could be a little bit different here. Candidly, I will tell you that for a while, I've owned UNH in my personal account. And recently, in the up end of this move, you can see how 450 was holding support. I was recently a buyer at the 450 level. That being said, and I'm not getting into any of the specifics, but the stuff you hear about them, I just kind of decided I don't want to own the stock anymore. So I sold a couple of days ago. And I don't intend on buying it back. And I don't feel any of that nonsense about dude is a hero, and I don't believe any of that crap. I just, sometimes you just like a chart and you're like, this stock continuously goes up, and you leave it at that. And every now and then you're just like, I don't want to own that company. So it's that simple. So anyways, I should have mentioned before I flipped the other chart. So Rivian, we got it off VWAP. I thought we'd get a better chance to press back into VWAP. There's still some buying in the, like the 1305, 1306 range, but it is starting to come back in. I got bids to the low of the day. This is just a trend continuation play, kind of like what MAR is at this point. Yeah, you guys let me know what else is out there that you guys might be looking at. Derek S., I get it. UNH has always operated like that, though. You're probably right. And I don't take myself too seriously to admit complete ignorance when it comes to that. It was just one of those names. Hey, all you hear is best of breed, this and that. I like the chart. It did really well for me in the time that I owned it, and it had that great support at 450. It just kept bouncing off. I'm like, oh, this is great. It's a good name to have, and you never really look too deep into it. And every now and then, you just don't want to own something. So it is what it is. And I think that's not necessarily the most profitable way to go about investing. Everybody, like, you should just be trying to make money. But Isra, what up, Isra? Thoughts on SMCI? I don't have many great things to say about SMCI. Mostly because, look, it's coming out of so remember, we already had the announcement of Palantir, MicroStrategy, and Axon going into the NASDAQ, and it's SMCI and Moderna and Illumina are the three that are coming out. Tomorrow at the close is when all of that happens, and effective Monday, this is what's going to be going into it. So, I might feel better about this one next week after they've come out. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's been trending down and now into a potential flat bottom. It broke. Look, this one broke through to pass yesterday's lows into the bottoms from the week and is still in a bit of a downward trend. So, here's all I see was a continuation short. It had a support level, it broke it. That support turned into resistance. It had a support level, it broke it yesterday. That support turned into resistance. It then worked into the new low. It's just stair-stepping to the downside. And if a stock is stair-stepping to the downside, then as a day trader, you're looking short. And as someone looking for longs, why don't let it break trend? Allow it to leave the index, have all of that settle itself out at the end of the year. You're probably going to have some tax loss selling in this thing too as well. And I feel like if there's going to be better things, it's going to be after they get a positive report and in the new year when people that have sold to take the hit that they're probably down on it, try to get back into it when they believe next year. So the trend speaks for itself on SMCI. It is what it is. So we'll see. I mean, anything can happen tomorrow. I'm not saying there's going to be a gigantic sell imbalance on it, but I tend to want to trade it the day of in the direction of the expected move, and it's coming out of the NASDAQ. So I'll be favoring shorts tomorrow on SMCI.
Yeah, no, that ticker's been quite a wild ride here in 2021. 2021, nice.
Boom.
2024.
Where's that time machine, bro?
I'm thinking too much about euphoria.
You get some Bitcoin or ETH at 25 cents.
Oh boy. So I forget who it was in the chat. I think it was Abhi in the chat asking us a bunch of times if we can take a look at Nike, and I just remember that. So I have not forgotten. I know it was on the docket. So Nike, they have earnings. When do they have earnings? They have earnings tonight, Neil. So Nike earnings tonight. I know you're going to be.
We got because you mentioned tonight. We got a special guest. Adara is not feeling well, so she can't be in. Right. But a certain gentleman with options expertise, who may or may not go by the name of Joe. Will be joining on the Aftermarket Show recap.
Nice.
We're ready to go, Joe.
Be sure to tune in. Any hot takes? Are you watching the chains on Nike? Is it just doing it?
Just doing it. That is a good point. You guys like to be
They can't. No, they can't. They can't hear you. They can't hear you.
Yo,
by
Mike.
the way, because he's just talking normally. He's like, all right, yeah.
we'll be there. We're gonna look at the options.
Okay, he says we're gonna look at some of the option trades. So I was looking at, you were saying something to short, and I was looking around and I liked, and again, trading in the demo, I want to take good reps. So guess what? I have my stop in, Neil, and I risked to bar high on the Google, and it's working out nicely as of right now. So it's kind of breaking down with the rest of the market. Oh boy, there it goes, strong flush, nice. And again, it happens to work out with that market tailwind as well. So that was building up nicely. But let's take a quick look at Nike here real quick. Going into earnings, take a look at this, man. Been consolidating pretty much sideways underneath prior earnings anchored. This is the earnings anchored that we had that brought us down. A bit of a wick action here off of the highs, 92.43s all the way down into 80s, and then consolidating sideways since then. But a bit of price compression, consolidation happening since when is this? About November 25th. So about a few days, 25 days roughly, sideways consolidation, attempts to push up into 80s, can't really get too far, failed to follow through 80s, drops back into the consolidation, and chop. The lows are in and around 77s, the highs are in and around 79, so about roughly 2 points, give or take one, is the consolidation here on Nike, and we're coming into earnings on a bigger picture downtrend. So interestingly enough, oh boy, Neil, I gotta stay alive.
It's already at 189.
I gotta stay alive, man. And it's like, and the thing is, something I did well. I looked at my calculator, and I was like, this is the kind of trade. Me, it's this is like a, it's a B trade. So am I gonna get into B size right away? I did. So I did in 2 shots, risking to prior bar high. Never got there. Actually, I wasn't even risking prior bar high. I was risking current bar high at the time. So that happens to be working out right now with an accelerated push to the downside. So I definitely have to be watching this one. The market is coming in with only about 48 minutes left in the trading day before we ring the bell. So Google here, let's take a quick look at, again, this idea that I am exercising on once again. Trying to take good reps, even though I am trading in the demo. So day low was 189.30s. We just flushed right into 189s. So what is my risk? You can see it kind of grinded down to the downside, making consecutive lower lows and lower highs within this trend. It's rejecting off of, what is this, an anchored. The anchored is pinned to, again, 2 p.m. from yesterday. So it couldn't really get past it, held above it during the midday a little bit, and then it started using it as a resistance. It kind of double topped 191. Market looks weak. Everything else is looking weak as well in terms of softy. I was either choosing between Google and softy, and I was like, Google, I like the risk a little bit tighter.
You know which one you should choose?
On the Google. What's up?
This is sort of an obvious thing. The one that you would actually trade long.
Oh boy.
I sort of, and this is
Amazon?
No, I know it. Just between the two. Like if you would always choose, because I know you trade Google more than you trade Microsoft.
Oh yeah.
Pretty sure, right?
Yeah,
so like that's when you're in the sim. It's like you should take the reps. Take the reps on the one you're going to scale, right?
It's like you're practicing for the game. This is not the playoffs. This is not the All-Star game.
I say this every time.
But I'm at the gym. I'm putting in the reps as if I am playing the game.
I play poker. I love poker. I think it's a fun game. But I'm completely convinced, and I always have been, that one of the key reasons why, if you can understand the game and you've played, you understand pot odds, you know what you're doing. Obviously, there's a lot to that. But if you have all of that, one of the biggest things that distinguishes the best pro players from like the average just good player at your home game is when the stakes increase, they are able to still make the same quality decisions regardless of pot size. It's all just points and decision making. And the other side of it, they take everything just as seriously. And I've been fortunate. I trained in university. There were 2 future Olympians on my university track team. And I will tell you, and on top of that, there was a couple that used to go to nationals all the time. You see the biggest difference, and something that you pick up on really quickly, is how incredibly serious they take practice and they take those reps. And I remember when I started taking, like I would do my actual routine in the blocks like it was a race when I was taking my reps. And everyone used to mock me and be like, ah, ha, ha, I get clowned for it. But it's like, no, like, why wouldn't you take it seriously if you're trying to get better? And that's what you should do with your mental reps. However, I got to get to a super chat here, which is for you, Obi.
Yes.
Because Kyle Burdett says, and obviously you would say that when we're talking about taking good positive reps when you're practicing your trades. Forget good reps. Take a milli shares of Apple short like Fahad. I am rich.
Oh, boy.
That's Kyle. Thank you for the super chat, Kyle. We appreciate you. I know you're just messing around.
If you hit the book with a million shares,
you got a problem.
You might get something that happened at the end of the day yesterday. Did you hear one of the directors of Nvidia sold a million of his shares yesterday?
It doesn't surprise me. But
I think that's what the news was. All right. So speaking of taking
the
good
algos
reps,
will chew you up. If you fire a fat
they would
finger
take the
order,
other side of that.
They'll take the other side, knowing that someone just screwed up. Usually.
I'm sure
if you've ever
the book with 1 milli all in one order.
No, but you ever fat fingered in a stock like that?
Yeah.
If you've ever done it, I know I've done it before.
Yeah.
You could be dead right, and it's just not going to matter.
Yeah.
Not going to matter.
Yeah.
I did it once on Square on an earnings day, so there weren't any real whales trading at that time, and I got away with it because at the time it was block and it wasn't a lot of predators. I did it once on Nvidia. You guys probably didn't even notice live on the show because I was dead right. But you better believe it, for the first 5 minutes, they're like, she ain't going up now. This dude just screwed up.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere until you cover a bunch of them shares, bro. That's what the algos are going to do to you because they know an abnormal order just came in that made no sense. Right. And so you got to be watching. Bitcoin just made a bit of a bounce. I am not going to reload.
So.
I'm not going to reload this Mara here because you're catching a distinctly different bid. Let me just quickly go over to BTC so you can. Oh, I have a daily chart still up there. That's what I might change my 15 minutes to Solana. But you just had a bounce off 95.5, which can I zoom out far enough so you can see? That's this higher low. So we had that flush into 94, and we just came off a bit of a higher low. So it was a little bit of head and shoulders the last time we were down here. Trade oil, CFDs. No, I will not trading to you. But here, bouncing off 95.5. Do not necessarily love the velocity that this just picked up. So I'm not going to go for the reload. We got a couple of legs out, but we're still holding on to half of this thing. I thought we'd get a push into 20. If we break out the local high, I'm jumping out of this trade. Rivian, oddly enough, doesn't seem to care as much as it's still making lower highs, but a little bit of a bounce there in Bitcoin and it's starting to take one, at least Mara is starting to come to the upside. So we just got to be a little bit careful with it. Let us know what else you guys are looking. LM just has MSTR for tomorrow's bounce.
Tomorrow's bounce. I mean, it's selling.
I'll tell you right now, very selfishly, I would have wanted MSTR to be down 10% today. Because you go SSR, and it's that day and the next day. But I don't remember a situation where stock was being added to the index at the close, and it was short sell restricted. So the uptick rule is in effect. If you could have given the uptick rule in effect tomorrow when MSTR is going into the NASDAQ or when Palantir is going in, I feel like that's what I would have wanted to see. So selfishly, it's not going to fall another 4% and go down 10%. It's very unlikely to happen, but certainly that would have been the best case scenario. Kind of a triple bottom here at 325 and a bit of a trend break as well. The other thing this has going for it, look at where MSTR is bouncing. You've had obviously a recent not good look, but 50 period, recent support down around 310, 315. I think it's set up pretty decently for tomorrow. In that, unlike Palantir, it's pulled back so far that I think you have a little bit less of a barrier for it to do a good run. The last time something really obvious on an addition to the major index was gigantic was Tesla. I never expect any of these to be as good as Tesla was. For a lot of traders, the Tesla addition to the S&P 500 was life-changing. It was one of the most ridiculous moves I've ever seen. We haven't seen that anytime since. MSTR has a chance to be like a tenth of that, so I want to look out for that. I think it more so than Palantir, and if only because Palantir, shoot, that chart's not going to be anything. That chart's basically just going to show you from the time it got to the NASDAQ. That's what our charting does. But yeah, Palantir, it's a bit of a different look for this going into its addition. Like most of that's got to be priced in at this point. So I'd be much more interested in trying that one, trying MSTR at the close. If all things being equal, I'd probably prefer MSTR.
Nice. Yeah. So in terms of decision making, so the Google, we came down to 189, so that was pretty nice. And a bit of a stall, holds the level, doesn't really crack through it. And yeah, the bid kind of shows up. So cover a third right there on top of 189. And then when it breaks the prior bar of the flush, I cover another third, so holding only a third left. And then when it continues to push back above this 89.60s, where that sell candle kind of opened and this bar kind of breaks as well, I'm covered pretty much everything except for a couple of shares here.
Nice.
Coming right back in. So let's see. This trend is still holding to the downside, right? Technically, this double top rejection of that anchored is holding, and the trend resistance is in and around here. So I'm just like, all right, well, if it's going to bid back up, I'm more than willing to get some back in here. But yeah, I like the hold of that 189 to cover. Didn't really give me everything that I was looking for. That was a low of day break, but it was unclean. And am I expecting things to be unclean in a market like this? I think so. So just keeping those things in mind, I'm just like, all right, well, peace off, and then peace off pretty much the rest of it. Looking to potentially get in more, but if this breaks, oh boy, we might be poised for a little test of these highs if we break this this trend to the downside. Now, this trend has been pretty decent with sellers consistently pushing it in for about an hour there. You can see it's been selling off for an hour, but if we're going to continue push back up, I'm more than willing to give the rest to my stop, which is, I think, at 190 20s, I think. Yeah, 190 15s right here.
I think it's the market's actually. So the other thing that's happening on the NASDAQ is it's going red-green. So this is like, it's not random. Like, you're at overnight lows and you're kind of bouncing. Here's the NASDAQ. You're at overnight lows and you're also bouncing from red to green. And the ES managed to hold green as well. So yeah, a little bit of caution. Like, I'm looking at this recent trend in Rivian. I can get some out at break even. Like, why would I not do that? And then maybe give the rest to VWAP. Just noticing where we're bouncing in this market and picking up a little bit more steam. Like I said, I'm not going to add tomorrow. There was a question from Tony, what's for lunch today? I actually didn't get I don't even see the email. I had a salad. I get the salad.
Chicken.
What did you guys get?
Chicken something. Maybe it was an Alfredo. I don't know.
Shocking.
Casserole. Chicken casserole.
Chicken casserole was lunch?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like that's a couple of days we haven't gotten the email. It's weird. Like, you don't remember.
You didn't get the email yesterday either?
I don't remember seeing it.
Oh.
Yeah, I feel like every time we don't get the email, we forget to do what's for lunch. Oh, I just didn't get it?
Okay.
Fabian said he got it. Okay, well, maybe. See, you know why I didn't get it. No, I'm just joking. What is Nuke doing? Palantir's running into the close. Yeah, I don't have anything I love for reload. I just took out some Rivian, just a bit better than break even because it's breaking this trend. And then I'll hold the rest to the original stop above VWAP. I think that's a reasonable decision instead of trying to jump into this one more time here. But if Nuke is halted again, of course it is.
Up or down?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
Take a quick look. Up.
Up halt on Nuke.
In the up halt in the last 45 minutes to an hour?
That's not a bad sign.
That's
right.
That's an interesting.
Where's the bottom here? 40. It's already breaking trend. Might have gone too far.
Maybe something there.
You got to have this early in the move, so you're holding into the halt, in my opinion. I think you're trying to chase. I don't want to chase that one. And Matt C saying any thoughts on Snap?
Snapchat.
There's a name.
Eyes definitely on Snapchat with the whole TikTok ban kind of coming in, right? Potentially.
It's not moving today.
Yeah.
And the problem so the good thing for Snapchat is it spent most of the day holding green, but it's not really moving. It's against a scalp trade of 25 cents in Snapchat. Positive in that it never made any fresh lows. Positive in that it's holding the 50 period. Like, it's still in a nice upward trend. But I think Like if you were swing trading off of the 50 period and you like the stock, like, well, that's been working. So after yesterday, that's not a bad entry point because you feel like some stocks probably made a bottom yesterday. If we're going up from here, then why wouldn't you like a stock that was already trending off the 50 period moving average? So in that sense, it looks good. For a day trade, I don't know what to tell you. Like that's the exact opposite of what I think I would want out of Snapchat for a day trade. But yeah, you look at that. You have a flat bottom that broke, panic low, and then it just regained support at 11.18. And it's also got the 50 period on the daily. Everything about that looks pretty good for, you can take a long now and you look for like an out underneath prior support, and then you've got your nice risk to reward, you've got yourself to find out, you can give it to the prior low, all sorts of things set up pretty nicely when you're just joining the trend.
Yeah, that's what I'm realizing as well. It's just like a lot less hassle, a lot less mental capital spent as well when you're attempting to join the trend. Now I'm kind of thinking about this concept again in my journals a lot recently, where I'm just like, all right, well, some of the biggest rips that I take, for example, yesterday and a little, maybe not really today, but technically I was fighting the trend. So anyways, biggest rips I've taken is fighting the trend. It's where I'm convicted that I'm very strongly convicted. I'm almost convinced that the ticker will it's got to bounce, or how much further can it go? Oh, a little bit of an uptick, a little bit of a downtick will kind of play some tricks on me. I'll be like, okay, this is it right here. I got to get in. Oh, this is it right here. Now I have to add or whatever. And some of the biggest rips that I've had is fighting the trend. So yeah, getting with the trend, definitely a lot less taxing on the mental, and yeah, it's a lot more forgiving as well. Was what I found is sometimes if you're with the trend, even if you have not the best of prices, not the best of executions, you're giving yourself a better probability of the trade kind of coming into fruition as well. But in that process, what I'm also realizing is what are some of the best reversions. So like when is that not the case? When is the trend looking pretty good and the move kind of capitulates, or it gives you some strong sort of indication of a trend reversal, and those are maybe the only reversions that I should take part in, and all other trades I should try to get a little bit better at trading with the trend. You can see here, Google, the trend kind of broke, it pushed up, 190s came in, but now we're taking a little bit of a pullback. It was funny, someone in the chat was just like, oh, the Christmas rally is here. It kind of reminds me of the memes where it's just like, when you bid up like 2 points and everyone's like, oh, it's a bull market. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, just because we've bid up. Yeah, no, we're pulling back right away. Going into the close, let's see. Closing of this week should be interesting. We got, I think, what is it? Triple witching tomorrow? I think so. Yeah. A bit of that happening at the end of the week, so could be some decent opportunities on the close or even during the day. Tomorrow we got the S&P, we got some adds and deletes as well with MSTR. Is SMCI being dealt with tomorrow?
Oh, yeah.
Or yeah, okay,
all happening tomorrow.
All happening tomorrow. Yeah, it could be interesting. Definitely want to be cognizant of that coming into the trading day tomorrow.
Well, it's also witching, right? Like it's
that's what I just said. Yeah. So it is.
Okay.
It's triple witching. Yeah. So yes,
Ramin's just like witching. As I realize I'm not even plugged in, so
oh boy,
let me do that.
So we're coming right back in. So it seems like it's coming right back. So that 190 failure to follow through. So I'm kind of thinking about potentially taking the rep for getting back in. Into this trade. The thing is, like, okay, so this is what I didn't do well. Stop was at 190.20s, I think. Let me check where my stop was. I actually punched out, so yeah, 190.25, right? So I was risking about 35 pennies-ish. I think my entry was in the 90s, 89s. I was risking about 25 pennies 35 pennies roughly on the trade, and dropped down almost a point. On that, well, pretty much a point, as 188.93 is the low. Comes back in, and I didn't give the rest of the trade into 90.25. So that would be in and around right there. So didn't even quite get to there, although it has kind of started to wash a little bit of that trend. That trend could be very, very arbitrary as well at the same time. So there you go. See, a little bit of movement around, a little bit of line fitting can show us that, yeah, we pretty much only tested the trend there, tested the whole dollar at that 190, taking a little bit of a pullback. And oh boy, Tesla, strong pullback on Tesla. I don't know if that wick is real. Did we actually go up to 450s and then pull back in? I don't think so.
No, the high of that move is 440.80.
Okay, I was gonna say. All right, so again, where is Tesla pushing up into the close? Into that anchored from yesterday where we got that 2 p.m. selling off of FOMC. So let's see if some of these levels that were levels of resistance and selling prior day and in the opening session continue to stay the same going into the close. Now with only about 30 minutes left in the trading day, Neil, I'm more than willing to test that idea out. So let's see if we can take some into that anchor.
Test the long, right?
Yeah, I want to see if we can take some into that anchored, and if we can get above anchored, maybe take it. I'm looking to maybe get a little more aggressive here. 440s trading right now with the market pushing back above 21.5. So we did attempt to make a low here, but didn't really break down that prior low. Nice little push all the way up to 21.6, and aggressive pullback down as well, but holding within that price range as of right now. So
it can break
Micron to the upside.
If it can close the 15-minute
above.
Like if it can break 441, I think. Like it's already made part of the move. Remember, outside of yesterday, I feel like almost every single day Tesla was doing it, where you'd have that, some point you'd get a strong buy into the close almost every single day. I don't know if you showed that, but on a 15-minute chart, it's very obvious. Can we come to the chart here for a second? Like this is, I'm just going to show you how far back. You know, you go to the 6th, there it is. And then again at 3:30, doesn't happen there on the 10th. It was already trending, but then right at the end of the day, big spike, doesn't happen here. So it's almost every day. And then you get a spike after 3:30, breaking the high. Some days bigger than others. Another buy, very, very small one. Yesterday, all bets are off. But if it does something even approximating.
We still got the bid.
Okay, we did get the bid, but I think
it's into the
I would tend to always throw that data point out when you have such an extreme move. Because obviously, like, it's a little different when it's gently doing the normal, and when it's dropped $50 and then it does that kind of a bounce after 3:30, I'm not going to treat that the same as the other one. So while it did happen, I'm going to kind of throw it out and just say only 3 times in the last like 7 or 8 it hasn't done it, and one of them I would throw out the data point. But if the buyers can continue break out each time, like it's been trying to break out. Like I like it when it's breaking away from something. You know, when it just be a continued trade. Rather continue it, break away, and then go for the continuation trade. There are a few imbalances on the early look, but it's just XOM and Oxy. And oddly enough, XOM is a sell of 1.3 million, and Occidental is a buy of 1.2 million. So the energy names aren't even agreeing with each other at this point. This is worth keeping an eye on. Reddit is a 700,000 buy. It may not seem like much, but Reddit's only done 3 million shares of volume. So it doesn't do a ton of volume. It's not the most liquid stock in the world. 700,000 into 3 million volume on the day. It's not a large number notionally, but it's a large number relative to the amount of volume that the stock has done. So if this were to come out that size or larger, I think it would be worth looking at least at Reddit for potential close trade in there. Chris L saying Nike probably up after strong Black Friday and Cyber Monday. I don't have a dog in this fight, and that's Nike. What I can tell you about this stock is somebody has had a jolly old time selling $79 on Nike. So it just, now the other side of it is, well, you could also make the argument that someone's been buying it in the 76 to 77 range. But I think it's more obvious the selling that's been happening in front of the 50 period and anytime it gets adjacent to the 79 level on Nike. So you know what needs to, if it gets through that, I don't care what the numbers are. If it's above 79 tomorrow, I like the trade. That simple. Like your clear sell zone. You clear that out, and I'm looking for a continuation play on Nike almost regardless of what the numbers are. Price doesn't lie.
Yeah, so we're getting some aggressive selling. So I'm glad I only got into like initiating size there, bring all the way back down to 435 as well. While I wasn't really looking at this one, so you know what, I'm more than willing to get out, reassess on that one. There, didn't really give me the chance to get as big as I wanted, as it did not push past that 440. We're going to break this trend and come to the downside. I'm definitely done with that one. With only about 25 minutes left on the day, Neil, it seems like some of these prior levels and levels of resistance and anchors and prior day, end of day consolidation lows going into the 8 p.m. close seem to be holding as of right now, just underneath, in and around that 440 mark here on Tesla. So let's see how that one closes. With the market pulling back in, you can see that Google also is starting to bid right back below or into that 189 level here going into the close. So, oh boy, here we go. That's some strong selling coming in
and low
into the market. So Alphabet making a fresh low. Softy just made a fresh low as well. Apple looking to break its consolidation low. The consolidation kind of being sideways since, when is this? This is 10:15. All right, so 10:15 consolidation lows are breaking on Apple, so pretty much all day. S&P 500, the ES making some fresh lows. There goes the NASDAQ on the intraday there, making some fresh lows as well. Amazon's not quite there yet. Tesla holding up relatively strong to the rest of these tickers. Nvidia as well coming in to some of its prior morning session consolidations, I guess, not really lows. The low day is at 129.55. We're trading at 130.80s right now. Oh boy, look at that selling coming in, Neil, coming right back through that 189. So here are those fresh lows on the goggles.
Yeah, the market making fresh lows, and well, you'll never miss a trading opportunity at a key price level if you try out eSignal and use it to its full potential, obviously. You want to be able to trade smarter, not harder. Hey, you want an elite trading experience, then eSignal is going to be for you. Whether you're looking to analyze potential opportunities, strategize to try to find new ones, or simply capitalize and make more efficient trades, and eSignal is going to give it to you. How are you going to analyze? Why? By having data from pretty much every single available ticker that you could want. That is reliable. Every indicator, so that you can try to find what strategy is going to work best for you. The ability to back test, so you can see which ones have actually worked in practice in the market in the past, and then you can forward test it into the future. You can use tick replay, so you can capitalize on entries and exits and get better at getting a good price on your entry by looking at the price action as you were making your trades. You want charts that change the game? This is going to be for you. It's all about everything you need in one place on a reliable platform so that you as a trader can sit back, relax, and just execute the strategies that you're able to develop. So scan that QR code that you see, check the link in the description, and take your trading to a whole another level. As the market, we did just bounce a little bit. You're able to break the low on the NASDAQ just ever so slightly. Here in the NASDAQ, we wicked underneath the bottom, bounced off 21.4. Now looking at the March contract for anybody, it's the H25, right? So not everybody rolls over, but if I say a price and you're looking at something different, well, that's because I'm on the March contract. We just bounced off the low a little tiny bit there. And I know we got some out of Rivian as it looked like it was a little bit strong into VWAP, but I just took some more out at support. Don't know that we're going to get a gigantic flush at this particular point. I'm very glad that I got away from Nvidia. I could have taken a couple more shots and been trapped by the same price area again, but sometimes you just got to walk away. You know, and obviously it turned into a bit of a short. I think the best you can do is try to hold on to your shorts. I saw in some of the chats, in the chat there, someone was saying, I've had great short entries and I've been able to hold on. You know what? If at least you've been trying to go short, I think you've been okay. Like, there've been some good long opportunities, but most of them haven't lasted all that well. And SOD, we did talk a little bit about the quantum stocks because they were nasty. I mentioned this morning, my wife is in one of them. And I'm not going to repeat that discussion. You can watch the morning show when I talked about that. But pretty much like QBTS, 30% down, won't be sold. QBTS, there's probably, I don't think I've looked at IonQ, but they're taking it on the chin. I think you've got to understand, after a day like yesterday, And when you have moves like this on names that have not necessarily proven anything and, that are small caps, these were the danger spots today. And they were the last group to go parabolic. So I feel like they were just primed to get a pretty hefty pullback. And they've just followed trend all day long. All you need to be doing is trying to short these bad boys. INQ, I guess, what did that one do today? Actually not that bad. I like that stock. Ooh. But I mean, it's trending down, but it's actually not that bad relative to the prior close. But pop and fade, that was the story for a bunch of these names. QUBT, this is the one that we did talk about earlier. This is the worst of them, QUBT. But it cuts both ways, because I would argue this was the best one on the way up. So on the way back down, of course it's going to have the bigger move, because it gave you the biggest parabolic move from the bottoms. This went 1 to 25. In the last few sessions, this went from $6 to $25. So you're still actually double up from here. Not that that's a good thing if you bag held.
That's crazy. I think that's definitely something we should be watching going into tomorrow, because that is first red day. Potential for backside. I gotta look at this. Was there any capitulatory action there near the highs? Is it confirmed by volume? What kind of turn did we do? Let's see. I'm pretty curious here. So while I watch this Tesla put in some work on top of this 435, 436 area. Go to QUBT. So,
they passed the deal.
I've definitely been watching some of these tickers over the past couple of weeks. And I'm just like, oh boy, this run up is quite crazy. Again, started on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and yeah, a little bit of a backside move here, breaking the trend. So had to be there a little early. Let's not do that. Let's not start from there. Let's start from the first little strong pullback. Right here is where the bid kind of catches, if I can catch. Okay, so yeah, a little bit of a trend support, if you want to call it there, especially after day one. It holds those highs. It holds those highs and continues even higher, closes near the day low, and then we get more of a continuation, but a chop in that continuation, very aggressive chop, as some of those highs 24s, some of those lows 19. So about a 5-point chop on a $20-$25 ticker as it continues to make higher highs and higher lows. So interestingly enough, we come in today and take a look at the rejection in the morning. We pretty much double top 125s. Yesterday's high was 25s. At 27.15 is prior day's high going into the close, and take a look at that break of trend. Strong reversion, comes in off of the open, aggressive. So I guess the ideal place to short right off the bat, in my opinion, is in and around after 8 a.m. where it makes this pre-market top. So it's like, all right, well, when can you potentially look for an opportunity there? You see the bid kind of coming in. You're like, all right, well, if this breaks this trend right here, which is very, very clean, you can see this consolidation grind all the way up. So I'm probably asking myself, if we break this trend, and I'm looking for a reversion on the bigger picture, getting short maybe 24s, maybe into the open 23s, maybe a little aggression on the way down on the opening drive, 21s and 20s. When it holds that 20 level, oh boy, I like it even more, and it gets that continuation to the downside. So today was day one for a red day. Let's see if we get some continuation going into tomorrow, the last day of the week. And this ticker has basically been this whole week. All this action has basically been this whole week. That was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This is Thursday today. We've broken trend on Thursday, and a decent, what is this, almost a 50, definitely roughly around a 50% reversion, as, okay, from the low to that roughly high there. It's not measuring all the way to the high, but right here, let me kind of measure that again. So roughly, we'll call it 300%, 270% from the day one low to prior day Wednesday's high, going into the close. Very strong trend, and then break of that trend, retest the trend from the downside, that trend support turning into trend resistance in the pre-market, and then getting that sell off as well. So that's what I wanted to know. This is a what is that? The 20, let's say about a 20 point run, roughly. And then if you say you're getting in off of the open there, so you don't have those few points in the pre-market, you get about a 10 roughly a 9 to 10 point pullback here off of the open. So about a 50% reversion, Neil, within the day of 3 days worth of price action. So interestingly enough, we've reverted about 50%. So is this going to be a continuation to the downside tomorrow? I have no idea, but we're definitely below day 3 longs, and we're looking to test in and around that opening range low of day 2 for day 2 longs potentially as well. And if we get through some of these day 2 levels, then yeah, this thing bid straight up all the way into 10.27 with a high of 12.21 on day 1, and we're trading at 14.45. So some of those prices might be interesting coming into the day tomorrow. Only about 5 minutes left for these imbalances,
That's
Neil.
tough. That's a tough one that's already moved so far
Yeah,
down.
it's pretty much like most of the traders, he's done a 50% reversion. You know?
Yeah,
What more
that's
do
a
you
tough one. There was a deal. Oh, okay, there's a stopgap deal here. I threw it in the chat for everybody. New Republican stopgap is funding bill extends funding for 3 months, and like there wasn't that big of a move in the market. Sometimes you get a bit of a bounce. Like I looked over, like okay, well, is like a Walmart maybe going to bounce on that? And we did get like a muted 30-cent move on Walmart. I think that's what just got us through the top or through the bottom on the futures there when we kind of wicked the bottom. It might have just been a little bit of a spike because of that, but almost everything is just returning back into the downside. You'll see I'm no longer in AMC. I didn't really mean for that rhyme, but like AMC, this is just a morning trade, and it's just like yesterday. Like essentially, when AMC popped and faded, when GameStop popped and faded, I just took that same trade. Like it fails to high and get into the short. I held on to some, not much, basically held on to like 5% of it, and then took even half of that out when it got back into VWAP, and then just stopped out at support, sort of resistance, like local resistance. So we're no longer in that trade, and I might give us another shot. The way I see it, as long as GameStop keeps this pattern up, like this is it breaking and then finding an obvious top and then curling, if AMC wants to just go up for the only reason that GameStop is trying, like it's a weak stock, it tries to go higher, and you get an obvious fail at an obvious high, then I'm going to short that, I'm going to short that, and I'm going to short that, and should have shorted that. And then just take the low-hanging fruit. Why not? If it's there, you might as well take it. So the shutdown's averted. We're not exactly screaming to the upside in the market, but it's not necessarily bad news either. I'm only in the one position now, and as you can see, like one shot off VWAP on Rivian, and it gives you, 13. You get the teens in here. We're able to get 16.5, and our best fills are down at 13 even. And we're really only risking about 5 cents on actually just a bit less than that. Not bad, but no big follow through. Now, obviously, the market's not doing a heck of a lot just yet. Jay Lee, be careful. Boyle looking great. In your opinion, still going to 100. News today is Ukraine is no longer selling Russian nat gas to the EU. So every single time someone mentions natural gas to me, I try to remind, and this is not something that I made up.
Maker?
Yeah, the Widowmaker. It's not something I made up, and it's not something, like I have never invested in natural gas. I've taken a couple of swing trades in Tellurian before they got bought out, and they're kind of like adjacent to in the space in a sense. But I try not to touch this. I know so many traders that get rinsed on this, and I've never known anyone to trade natural in my 20 years. Anybody that's actually had done well trading nat gas. So obviously, being an ETF, sometimes you get these like splits and adjustments, but it's been in a hefty downward trend, and people always keep trying to call the bottom, and I feel like it just keeps burning people over and over again. But good luck to you. It's definitely something I stay away from. I don't mind energy names, but I'm not a huge fan at all. Saad Mahmood, wasn't there a guy who lost his firm like $5 billion in nat gas? You get all kinds of stories about nat gas. Yeah. It wasn't a Nick Leeson situation, but it was pretty bad. And if you don't know Nick Leeson, you don't want to look that one up.
Okay.
No, for any trader, and this is actually, I don't know, Joe's chuckling about this, but if you have issues with like averaging down and not admitting when you're wrong in a trade,
oh boy,
go watch Rogue Trader. Go watch Rogue Trader. Ewan McGregor plays Nick Leeson, or just pull up a clip of Nick Leeson speaking. He actually years ago was on. He came on here once, and it's a legendary story of a very successful trader who bankrupted the oldest bank in England.
Damn.
Because there were some compliance issues going on. I don't want to spoil everything. But then he got into a bad position and he just kept averaging down. But he was able to hide his losses because of some very shoddy compliance, which, that's the kind of thing you can clean up. But it's a very, very good story, and it's a good movie as well. Ewan McGregor's awesome in it. If you've never seen it, I think it's worth it for anybody that's a trader. Same way you watch Boiler Room for fun, you should really try watching that one. I think you might learn. Anybody can benefit, whether you have an issue with averaging in or not.
Yeah.
It certainly shows you sort of the problem with it. Like it's one thing to like your trading idea, but when you take belief past rationality and past what is a trade, and now just becomes like a hope to you, or like your own mental religion, like you're gonna get yourself into a world of hurt at that point if you can't admit you're wrong. And that's exactly what happened. And then pride gets into it. Dangerous game. Imbalances have dropped. I wish I could tell you it was crazy. Nvidia and Palantir are the ones, but that's not the way I expected Palantir to be. 1.6 million sell on Palantir, tomorrow being added to the NASDAQ. Nvidia, 2.4 million sell. Ford, again, 4 million to the buy side. What's interesting about that, Ford's early look was a sell, and now it's flipped to a 4 million buy. That's at least interesting. But Palantir sell 1.6 and Nvidia sell 2.4. Those are the ones that stand out outside of that weird flip on Ford. But then I look over at Ford and it did nothing. So it's notable that it flipped, but it's not making any kind of a move. Nvidia, as you might suspect, on that sell imbalance, there's Nvidia back to the downside. Don't fight it. Obviously, this market is not done selling. NASDAQ just took the lows again. We just don't have much of a bid in here, unfortunately. At this point, I can just hope for like the low of the day. I got to get to the desk in a few minutes. But, Palantir. I want to show you guys Palantir on that 1.6 million sell. Not a huge move. Palantir at least has the benefit of it's going into the index, so it probably is going to catch some buyers on any kind of a dip for today and tomorrow. You can at least lean into that, but Nvidia is certainly losing its bid here as the market fresh lows there on the NASDAQ.
It is.
The NASDAQ is holding red, and the ES just ticked red. The ES was green all day long till right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was consolidating sideways, right? It was pretty much sideways consolidation, chop within the opening range there as well. And finally, we kind of, I guess, we make a bit of a decision there, and I guess we choose to go to the downside on these markets. So yeah, we were talking a lot in and around this 21.5. I was like, is it going to hold? Is it going to pop? We went up to 21.6s. We came back down. So just chop, noise, consolidation, whatever you want to call it, on the day there. And yeah, coming into the close with only about 8 minutes left, Neil, we pretty much started to make a bit of direction here. What's going on? You said you have a question?
No, Maximilian Lucas in the chat here, and I'll cop to the truth of this, even though I kind of dodged it. Do you still have the Boiler Room on DVD? It is a fantastic movie, by the way. Or do you have to pay one of the streaming services every time you watch? Look, I mean, I have some gray hair in me, and I've been trading for over 20 years. So the answer to that one is yes, I've got it on DVD. Oh, nice. Although I have to double check. I might have lent it out and never got it back. I'll have to go back into the depths because it's entirely possible. I know I've lent it out a couple times, and I don't remember if I actually got it back the last time. But I won't call anybody out. But no, it's a great movie. I think if you have it, there's some good trading movies for fun, like I said, and there's some good trading movies for learning. No questions asked. That's a fun one.
I will be watching Rogue Trader tonight, and I will come back tomorrow, hopefully, nice. a little better of a trader.
I don't know where you can watch it. I don't know if it's on a streaming service.
I'll find a place.
Oh, you're one of those. Okay.
I mean, I've grown up with the internet for as long as I can remember. If things, here's the thing, information and knowledge should be free. All sorts of information, and that includes data, in my opinion.
Would it change your mind if I told you that my brother makes shows, like my brother's an animator.
Yes.
And so he works on mostly kids' TV shows. And so like I have a different, like I have just a different outlook on this.
No, that makes
in a general sense, when you know people that personally work in the industry and understand that a lot of the reason why some of them don't, like animators don't get paid what they deserve. I'll frankly say,
for sure,
especially in movies. And it's not entirely the fault of that, but you are hurting.
It's the corporations.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
but I also don't pirate because I feel like I'm taking away from the industry that my brother works in.
Funny enough, there's actually evidence that in the gaming world that not really going after pirated games actually does well for their sales for the actual game, because a lot of people they'll like pirate the game and then they like the game. And then they're like, I want all the features, like online, whatever. Yeah. It's like they get to experience the game, and it actually helps sales as well. But yeah, in terms of like video and stuff, I don't know how that would really affect that.
Piracy is a service issue. I just heard. Not my thoughts. 355 just hit. I just trailed out of my last position, and that's going to be Rivian. It's just a VWAP trade in there. But on the imbalances flipping, you're going to notice no more Nvidia, but Palantir is still a sell of 1 million shares. So PLTR, still a sell imbalance on Palantir. It's actually accelerating a little bit to the downside as we speak. So like I said, like not really anything doing on Nvidia. It ends up pairing off and then catching a hefty bid on NVDA, but Palantir the one staying a sell amount, despite the fact that it's going into the NASDAQ. But there's the flip on NVIDIA. You see it go back to the upside. And this is what, if you're trading this to the south side and you get that sell imbalance at 355, understand that a lot of stocks flip in that moment, and you're going to want to get out and make sure that you get yourself an out, or at least have a trailing stop when 355 hits. If your reason for the imbalance if your reason to be in the trade short was the imbalances was red and you're trading on VWAP, it usually makes sense to cover in front of 355 or at least have a trailing stop so that doesn't happen to you when the imbalance pairs off. But Obi, yes. I got to get onto the desk. Joe is going to be joining me in the aftermarket show. We've got Nike, we've got FedEx earnings. Should be an absolute blast. Thank you for filling in.
Thank you.
It's going to be a wild one tomorrow. Volatility is not going to be a 2-day thing here. It's going to be just as good for a few days at least.
Yeah, I think so. I think so as well. Again, going into tomorrow, gotta strap in a little bit there for quad witching as well, and some S&P and Nasdaq maybe rebalances coming in as well. We got that whole list of tickers that are being added. I think one of them was Workday. Right, Workday's somewhere on that list as well. I got to go back and check that list, do a bit of a refresher there in for tomorrow. And yeah, no, I'm just getting a little chopped up there on Tesla. I think there was a question in the chat saying that, oh yeah, what are you trading there? I mentioned earlier. Right now, I'm just on the demo account, and that's you're right. How can I be so calm? I'm just, again, not really sized aggressively, just taking a couple of reps here, giving it some room just for practice, and yeah, getting chopped up a little bit there. But this goggles trade definitely would have worked if I had given it to the stop there as we made that 190 lower high here. So as I get ready for the countdown, again, trying to get some reps in for tomorrow. Okay, Ryan saying that was a huge top wick on Apple. What just happened on Apple on a 3-minute? I guess yeah, there might have been some volume there happening. 250 half, so a bit of a hold of that 250 half level here going into the close, some tight consolidation, but still VWAP seems to be the place to be, as it's only been kind of bidding, and even this consolidation, this chop below is having us still trade in and around that 250 mark here on Apple. So we'll continue to watch that. Markets to the downside going into the close. Tesla not really doing too much, kind of just chopping and churning. Google, though, coming back down through that 189 as we saw. So continuing to the downside. Let's take a quick look at the market here as well in terms of constituents. Softy made a fresh low on that. Alphabet's making fresh lows. We know that. Nvidia didn't quite get down to its a day low on that, as some of these other tickers are approaching very closely. Take a look at Amazon here. Amazon also kind of near its lows. Let's take a higher time frame picture here. I'll go straight to the 30-minute chart. You can see that chop, holding relatively above VWAP for a majority of the day, still within this somewhat of an opening range. The first 30 minutes, even going into the open as well, holding that and coming back down. So this is kind of interesting as well. We got a leg down, we got a consolidation. I'm curious to know how tomorrow will be, but oh boy, this some of these tickers are flushing to the downside. Okay, so timer, we're a little late for the timer, but I will count down 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. There is the bell. Thank you, Fabian, for that. So thank you all for joining us on the day today. A little bit of a little bit of a mishap on my part with the morning session, kind of risking too aggressively and getting anchored to my trade idea here. People talking about Nike earnings tonight, and yeah, don't forget to stick around for that. We have Neil and Joe today at the desk for your market recap. So hopefully you guys had a solid day. Yesterday was pretty wild. Hopefully people didn't get too burned on that. Maybe you actually made a chop on that. So congrats to you for staying nimble. And that's something that I am trying to build. That's a skill that I'm trying to build as well in my trading quiver. Bears versus Bull. Hope you have a great evening as well. Indeed. With he's got the pirate flag there as well. Yo ho is what I'll say to that. But without any further ado, I will pass it off to Neil and Joe at the big desk for your market recap. I'll see you guys around. Have a good one. Take care.
Thank you very much there, Obi. I'm joined by Joe. Joey Options in the house. It's our first time doing the market recap together. I know you've been on a couple times with Sean. I get the pleasure today. I've never gotten...
The pleasure is mine,
Get the hell out of here. I've never had a chance to host a show with you. So this is going to be... We're going to have a blast. Now, look, I don't see the numbers yet from FedEx, but there was a bit of a move here in the aftermarket. Let me just change it. Let me change this to a 1-minute chart. In the aftermarket, a little bit better. There was a spike, like a few dollars, 276 to 280. As I said, we are expecting them at 4 o'clock. Here's the deets. We're expecting 3.9 on the EPS. Yep. We're expecting 22.14 billion in terms of revenue. The last move was down 15%, and the expected move today is about 11.5%. And there it is. Now you're going as wow. FedEx announces its intent to separate FedEx Freight, creating 2 industry-leading public companies. I don't even have the numbers yet, but usually when you break up to be more efficient, this is the kind of thing that can happen. 300 just tagged, 301 as well. Pop out the daily chart, and you're now talking about approaching some of these prior highs. You have a 52-week high up here about 313, and then a lower high about 307. So without even getting the EPS or revenue numbers, that's the big story. Separating FedEx Freight is the first headline that we get from FDX. Oh, you gotta love that because it wasn't a very good day for the markets overall. You know this is a bit of a barometer. You like to see it get bought up. It'd be nice to see this go back into those highs, Joe. But again, still don't have EPS and revenue. But every now and then they kind of drop the really good news first.
Well, I would hope so, right? We want to get that good news in because we do know what has happened the past couple of days in the overall market. But let's talk a little bit about the options chain here, Neil. So we have about a 10% expected move priced in to this move here, and we're already exceeding that right now. So about $30 move here, and now we've exceeded that. The most open interest that I've seen was exactly at that $300 strike price. About 6.2K open contracts currently right now, folks. But again, nothing crazy outstanding. We did slightly exceed that expected move, but we are now pulling in a little bit here, Neil, around $295 or so.
So I'm seeing here that the second quarter diluted EPS 3.03. I'm guessing the comparable number is going to be the adjusted at 405 as we're expecting 3.9. Usually that's adjusted. So that would make it a slight beat on EPS. I still don't have the revenue numbers. Again, they are saying they're going to look for this split of FedEx Freight to be publicly traded within 18 months. So this is going to be a split where it's going to go kind of like GE, split 3 ways. So FedEx Yeah, here we go.
There we go.
405, beat of expectations. However, sales was a miss.
It's a miss. 22 billion.
Yeah, so
Estimate 22.1.
this hasn't been a market that's been very forgiving to missing on the revenue number, Joe.
Apparently not.
But they're going to like splitting the business up a lot of times, unlock a little bit of unlock a little bit of value for the shareholders. So it's still looking pretty good. Now, for everyone tuning in here, the two big earnings names, there's a couple of others out there. BlackBerry, if you're for whatever reason interested in that, it's not till like 5 o'clock. Nike is not till 4:15. We're expecting 4:15 for Nike. It was a slight move happening right now. The earnings are not out as far as I am aware of, and they shouldn't be out until about 4:15 here, Joe. But as we said, the big story, and we'll get to Nike. We have plenty of time to be able to cover them. The big story is FedEx. Catching a bid above 300 right now is going to be good. And as you said, when you're expecting that double digits, a lot of times it'll pull right back into that level. And holding above is going to be key.
Exactly. That's the key part, guys. We know when you're constructing an at-the-money straddle here, we need to exceed that expected move here, Neil, in order to become profitable on this trade. So as of right now, it's looking good for those options trader who decided to place that trade, even though we're not up too much above that, only a percentage or two. But as we continue to climb, that's looking better for those at-the-money straddles. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, how many times we've seen too many during this earnings season where the only people making any money are those writing.
Exactly. And we had a question in the chat today about some short strangles where we're looking for that to stay within the range. Today with FDX, that is not the case. We exceeded those moves. So any short strangles or straddles, you're looking like you're in a little bit of trouble. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, the other thing I wanted to quickly point out here, Bitcoin is trying a little bit to hold. I know it wasn't a very good day for BTC, but there was a push down earlier, and Bitcoin's trying to bounce a little bit higher, back above the 96 level. I'm going to keep an eye on that as well because there have been some troubles with Bitcoin, especially in the aftermarket. There was a little bit of a flush in the evening. We've seen getting into 5 o'clock, you get some little bit of a dump, and we're under 100,000. I think you want to look out for it. The last time I had my physio, I wasn't paying attention. By the time I got there, it starts at 6 o'clock. He's like, you see what happened in Bitcoin? And I had left the office, it was at 99. And it hit 92 in the time it took me to get the physio.
That was such a
that was nuts.
Yeah, that was nuts. Such a crazy liquidity grab. It happened so quick, it seemed. Yeah. So whoever had the
Coinbase.
Yeah, exactly. So whoever had the ability to grab it down there, and then later we exceeded to about 108K at the all-time highs, roughly. Yeah. So that was a nice move there, no doubt about that.
And the only time I'm a buy and hold. The only time that I will actually sell any is if I catch one of those little crazy wicks. And there was one really good one, and I'm not crapping on Coinbase, but I couldn't get into my account one of the times that it did it. I guess everyone was trying to do the same thing. So
everybody.
We have some guidance here, which FedEx is seeing full year 25. By the way, FedEx fresh highs. Let's go. FedEx.
Oh, wow, they're printing over there.
Full year EPS 16.45 to 17.45. That's excluding adjustments. The prior. See, I don't necessarily love that. The prior guidance, 17.9 to 18.9. So that's lower. So they actually just came out with a lower full year guide. That's a bit tricky because we just made a new high on that number. But again, I guess you can always just try to explain price action. Price action is what it is. It's holding above the 10% mark. It's holding above that $300 level. But that doesn't look like a good guide there at all for FedEx. So I think you want to be at least a little bit cautious with this. You haven't had too many stocks get away with having lower than expected full year guidance. But there is a different story here, which of course is FedEx Freight, that they want to break it up a little bit here. I have a quick question for you.
Absolutely, shoot him out.
Because it's like we don't always get an options expert. Tomorrow's witching, and there is. Ramin's like, what is that? It's triple witching tomorrow, right? So that's obviously it's a big day in the markets. But the focus as a day trader is going to be on like the additions and deletions to the NASDAQ. But maybe you could walk through, at least for some of our viewers, like what matters to you tomorrow?
So for me, it's triple witching tomorrow, and I noticed from the past couple times is that a lot of the volume steps in right in the morning, all right? So a lot of people want to close those contracts before the end of the day, before the additions and deletions, but you're going to notice a lot of volume step in, especially with those higher mega cap stocks like Apple and Microsoft as well too. So just keep aware of that, all right? So you're going to see that big volume influx. That's just a lot of covering and a lot of exchanging of shares as well too. So just keep in mind, guys, that's when the stock options, futures options, and indexes all expire on the same Friday, all right? So this happens in September, June, I believe, and also December. There's another month in there as well, too. So just be wary and be aware when that opening drive happens. You're going to see an odd amount of volume step in, and that's just a bunch of changing of hands with contracts and outright shares. There's no doubt about that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of traders, it gets tricky at that open. There's just a little more, to steal a term from Street, a little more bamboozlement
Absolutely.
at the open
Yes,
because of all that extra volume. You're going to see some really big imbalances in the morning, which can get tricky to trade off of. I always tell people, if on a witching day, you don't make any trades in the first 5 minutes, there is nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact when I was a trainee, and even early in my career, you weren't allowed to trade the open on those types of days. They wouldn't let new traders. It's like, no, you don't. You're not going to have the tools to execute the first 5 minutes, and you weren't allowed to execute the last 10 minutes on the rebalance days either. They would say gain some experience because you don't want to ruin your entire day with a single trade. When really that setup that you had could still be good at 9:45. It's just you didn't want it in the first 5 minutes when everything is sort of getting flushed out.
And to add to that point, I remember the first time I recognized this, and I wasn't aware of the quad witching or the triple witching, and I was actually watching Apple that day, and there was such an abnormal amount of volume. I'm like, what is going on here? I have no idea. I've never seen volume like this before. And then sure enough, it was a quad witching day, and explained, and it justified why there was so much volume on some of these mega caps. And I think you should keep an eye on Apple, and especially NVDA, because those are such high options traded companies and underlyings, right? You want to keep an eye on those, and the same with SPY as well too, because you're going to see that massive volume influx come in on all those underlying assets. There's no doubt about that.
Can't say it any better. I'm a little concerned about FedEx here because,
and there you go.
Just to remind everybody, their full year 2025 guidance is well underneath the range, right? Like it was a 17.9 to 18.9 prior range, and they adjusted to 16.45 to 17.45. There's no way to read that as positive, and it is starting to come back. It just double tapped the highs. And then when you go to the daily chart, it's not like we went just anywhere. Like you basically came right into the 52-week highs and are pulling back a little bit here. So yes, splitting freight, good. And that's going to be publicly traded. They say within 18 months. But I'm not saying, by the way, Elon in the chat here, just to be clear, I'm not saying go short. I'm simply saying I can't rationalize in this market after yesterday how why would I want to be buying any tops or taking shots at highs when the guidance wasn't any good. That's a dangerous thing. But that said, ball doesn't usually lie. As a day trader, I know I'm not going to take any action until tomorrow, so it's easy for me to say because I'm not out there trading it right now. But I'd be very cautious about it. I do not love the fact the guidance wasn't good. We've been seeing a lot of punishment. You saw what happened to Micron. Obviously, different story. Chip space has been under a lot of pressure. This doesn't necessarily give me the good feels because FedEx is a bellwether here. Let's not gloss over the fact that FedEx is a good proxy, or one of those good proxies for the U.S. economy, one of the ones that you look forward to. So if they're lowering their guidance, maybe not the best sign in the world. It could be a cautionary tale. It'll be interesting when we get Nike in a couple of minutes, and Nike is due out in just 2 minutes. We're expecting EPS of 63 cents per share. We're expecting revenue of 12.17 from Nike. Its previous move was also down, but only 6.8%. And I have 9.2, but you probably have a much more updated number.
On the expected move? Yeah, I actually calculated this one myself, guys. So chat, feel free to fact check me on this. I have about a 7.7% expected move here on Nike. So about a $5.60 move here on NKE. But guys, what I really want to notice is where I've seen the most open interest here on these contracts is that 85 strike price expiring tomorrow. All right. So we got about over 17,000 open contracts as of right now. So we know that we can't close those. So in order to lock in some of those potential gains, if we exceed that expected move, we're going to have to sell shares against that. So if we get that straddle to move in the favor that we like and we want to lock in that definitive gains, we're going to have to sell some shares against that. So I'm really interested to see what happens here on Nike as well too, Neil. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and it should be, Joe, it should be any second now. We got less than a minute to go. When the numbers come out, we'll let you know. What's crazy about this is it's actually been moving, so there's maybe some itchy trigger fingers or fat finger trades that have happened on Nike. It's been as high as 77.5, actually touching almost 78. There was a little bit of a sell down into the 76 level. It's right back to flat, mostly a flat day for Nike, and you can see what's going on in the daily chart. Like I think, and like anyone else out there, if you're a day trader, we like when stocks go up in a general sense. I'm rooting for Nike to break out above 80 because someone's been selling a lot. And you can see the resistance that's been at that 79 level. So Nike, it is just a couple of seconds to go in here. We are expecting them to come out any second. There it is, and it's to the upside. Bang. So we just broke 80 into $82.
There you go.
All right, Nike, please let the numbers be good. We've got, nope, not out just yet. Okay, here we go. They got second quarter revenues were $12.4 billion. Expected was $12.17. So that is a slight beat. That's down 8% year over year, but slightly beating expectations or revenues. I don't have, why am I not seeing an EPS number just yet? So far, I only have revenues as a slight beat for Nike, but that's going to be a good thing. If you said you liked a 7% move as the expectations, well, you've got about 8 right now. There EPS 78 cents per share versus that 60. I saw 63. This is saying 65 estimate. Either way, it's a beat. You're beating on the top, you're beating on the bottom. Let's see what the guidance is. And remember, with Nike, you're probably going to care about the breakdown here. They're going to, at some point, and then they'll expand on it during their conference call later, you're going to see breakdown, how is it going in China? How is it going in the US? Comp sales there versus here. A lot of the pressure has been on outside of the US sales. You want to see some recovery there. So there's some nitty gritty here for Nike, but so far so good.
And that's exactly, it just popped up right on Benzinga right now. And one thing I was curious about, Neil, was inventories. I wanted to see what inventories were looking like. And there we go. Flat year over year, it's looking like. So 8 billion flat year over year for Nike.
Well, it's better than the alternative.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes not bad news is good news. Actually, especially true if a stock is in a downward trend. Like when a stock has been doing, look at the daily chart of Nike. If you don't know that this is a downward trending stock, when it's a downward trending stock, sometimes the absence of bad news can be just enough here. So it's holding that 10% move. We just got to 84. So it's blown past that seller at 79, which as far as I'm concerned, even if it ends up pulling back, tomorrow, oh goodness, the accumulation of selling that was at 79.80, I'd want to be long in front of that. Hopefully for anyone that's long Nike, you get no chance to be able to trade that, and we continue this move. So beat on the top and the bottom, flat inventories. Nike is trading through the highs one more time. Direct revenues were $5 billion. That's down 13% year over year. Understandably, most of the year over year numbers are going to be down for Nike. You can't really focus too much on the year over year. It's all about the expectations, and certainly it's looking like the potential bottom might be in. So, and Seeking Delta, we got you. Thanks for reminding us about the 79 seller. I jumped in when you reminded me. No, it's that's what we're here for. You know, at the end of the day, like all we do, and all of us do this, like we're just sitting here as traders looking for opportunities and looking at key price levels and looking at things that are interesting to us. So I'm going to see it regardless, and I'm going to probably say way too much and talk way too much and ramble way too much. That's just how a trading floor is. So if you're able to capitalize on an idea, or hopefully we can also capitalize on some of the ideas that you guys mentioned. I can't. Oh, yesterday it was yesterday. You know, I would have never had a good Marvell short if someone in the chat hadn't said, Neil, you should be looking at Marvell.
Absolutely, and I totally couldn't agree more with you, Neil, because sometimes we only have two eyes here, right? And we have, honestly, you got them on the back of your head, but we have the chat as well too, which is just countless sets of eyes. So when they're yelling things out, it's like, okay, let me look at this and let me see what's going on here. Do we have a potential setup here? And sure enough, once in a blue moon, not even blue moon, quite often it happens that, hey, I like what they're yelling out and what they're shouting out, and we get to take advantage of those opportunities. There's no doubt about that.
That's what it's all about. So I just saw AI in the chat, not literally an AI in the chat, like really AI, or unless that's an L, asking how's the outlook for Nike. So I haven't seen the guidance. I haven't seen a guidance number yet. We've gotten inventories. We've got the EPS and the revenue. We've got direct revenues that were $5 billion, but I have not seen the guide yet on Nike. We'll let you know. Sometimes things trickle in a little bit. I did want to come back to, we only really have the two big names today with Nike and FedEx. I did want to come back to FedEx. So while it is pulling back off the highs, it's now bounced a couple of times off the 300. Like I'd still, again, in the back of my mind, it's like, I wouldn't want to get caught up here personally. Looking at that poor guidance, but it is at least holding on to the $300 level and that 10% move.
Exactly.
Which is key.
And I wanted to ask you this, Neil, because I'm watching these 5-minute prints, and I want to know if you think this is genuine, because right after the announcement, that second 5-minute candle closed at about $305. But then the following candle, did that actually gap down to $275? I'm really curious.
That one's fugazi.
Yeah, I think so too. So I'm like, that would be absolutely scary if you're playing that. That's why we say, guys, unless you have a definitive strategy playing these earnings announcements, do not play that volatility onslaught, all right? You will get caught in the volatility crush, and you will have a bad time. There's no doubt about that. I've never personally done it, but I know traders who have decided to play those prints and have not had a good time after that. So avoid those at all costs.
I've seen two extreme examples of that. One, a trader on this floor, something happened to him, and fortunately it was to the good. We had a trader on the floor, and this is back when Amazon traded in the thousands of dollars, and he was trading earnings on Amazon, and he fat-fingered, and he didn't take away a zero. He added a zero to his position on a $2,000 stock on Amazon earnings, and thank goodness he was right.
Yeah,
But I'll never forget. This guy has been trading. He'd been trading. This happened maybe in 2016 or 17, and this trader had been trading since like 08 or 09. He was like almost 10 years into his trading career, and one of the best traders on the floor. And I will never forget when he covered for a massive win. Massive win. And I looked over, because I'm on the risk manager at the time, and I looked over at him, and I've never seen him so white and pale. And this is a fearless trader, and you'll never forget it. And that's what the aftermarket earnings can do to you. There was another example. I saw Qualcomm, and this was a couple of years ago. They had a beat in the top and the bottom. They had good guidance. It was flying to the upside, and then I don't know for a fact, but somebody screwed up and somebody got caught. Because all of a sudden in a charging up market, everything coming out good, and there's no liquidity, someone starts throwing 50,000 share loss to try to hit the bid. And the second they do that, the bid drops and drops. And it turned the stock red, one guy chasing it down. It recovered the following day, but that person, they didn't get filled till the bottom. You could see it happening live. And I'm like, that's somebody that just screwed up there. Caught themselves way too long and didn't know how to get out. So they're just trying to cover the entire chunk at once. Dangerous move.
Absolutely dangerous game. Do not wait for at least 5 minutes before you even think about doing anything. You do not want to play the anticipation of those announcements. There's no doubt about that, because we have no idea in which way it's going to go.
Yeah, and this, like I like these in the chat there. Junior son, fat fingers can gray your hair instantly. That is so true.
Yes.
I'd like to think that it's when you get less sleep. Like the adjustment from the amount of sleep that I got before I had a child and after, that's when it started coming in. It's like the greatest thing in your life, but it's not very good for your sleep and your recovery.
Well, I know for me it was the trading. There's no doubt about that. So we didn't have too much.
What are you talking
about? If I grow the beard out, Neil, we got a lot. We're probably about 60% gray on the beard there, and we're losing it up top here as well too. So you get a little bit of stress, but as you get more veteran, things calm down a little bit. There's no doubt about that.
The youngins over here on the floor are always, now you're really making me feel old. You don't have gray hair. You're like my brother. Oh, we're hanging on to 300 by a thread now. So it's looking a little bit more dangerous. I'm talking about FedEx, everybody. It's looking a little bit more shady as you're starting to get that rollover. Now remember, this was trending higher into a double top, and then we got the guidance, and it's since the guidance that you're pulling back. So it's starting to lose the 300 level. Be very, very careful with this on FedEx. I'm not telling anybody what to do, but you've seen what's happened since the guidance came out. Going back on over to Nike, and I don't want to dwell on too much. We actually only have like 5 or 6 minutes to go, but Nike is starting to give a little bit of a pullback. It's still above the expected move. That's good. Nothing about this yet has made me feel anything but good about Nike for a continuation play tomorrow. But neglected to point out here, you had a gap fill, double resistance at about $84, which is also the 200 period moving average. So the fact that you're running out of a little bit of the steam in this range makes sense to me. And oftentimes, when you get a liquidity gap, things make sense at obvious levels. And it breaks one to get to the other, because anybody that's taking shots here, I think they're going to look at those big levels on the daily and feel some security around those. Really, Sebastian? It's like this, Sebastian.
What do you say?
Joe, look at Neil. He is bald. I mean, that's a choice.
Oh, man.
First of all, I hadn't had a cameo. See, now if I could rewind the tape, and one of these days I'm going to find it, I had that Kid and Play joint.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah, dude.
Go.
Like, like the shave. I had the cameo up to here back in
Hey
the
Arnold
day.
almost kind of, is that, you know the one guy from Hey Arnold?
Yeah, it was kind of like that. But there was one year, I played baseball, and my favorite player for the Jays growing up was Jesse Barfield.
Okay.
And all the dudes in the 80s, I'm old, all the guys in the 80s, they did have the fro and then the hat, like the fro would just stick out the back of the hat. And I remember the first year I played for my city, and all the guys in the team were like, yo, man, you got to grow it out like the 80s. I'm like, whatever, I'm not going to cut my hair this summer. And I did the fro to the point where you pull the hat off. Old school. I had hair. Okay?
I don't know if I should be telling you guys this, but I'm going to say it anyways. They used to call me Joe Fro back in elementary school because I had a massive afro, which I then later turned into dreadlocks.
A word?
Yeah, I used to have dreadlocks, like down to here-ish, roughly.
Pixar, it didn't happen.
Yeah, Pixar, it didn't happen. We won't be seeing those guys. Those are long gone and in the abyss now. We're not going to be pulling up any. We're not going to be pulling up any. Actually, I don't mind dreadlock Joe. You know, it was a good time. Teenager, and I used to have them playing hockey too, believe it or not. So yeah, there we go.
I've always been bald seeking Delta. No, I just always cut my hair short. That's all. When I got to high school, I just cut my hair short. I liked it when I ran track, and I've kind of stuck with it. So
Bilbo Bagholder. Joe does seem like a guy who had dreads in high school. I didn't know I came across it. Yeah, I used to have it.
I know, I could see it.
But I mean, back in high school, didn't everybody grow their hair extremely long?
If you could.
Yeah, if you could, absolutely. So there you go. So I was one of those individuals. Mine just turned into dreads. And they were natural dreads, too, because I just got too nappy. And that's it.
I still want to see video evidence of that. I'm just saying.
We'll pull it up. We'll find something, and we'll get those pictures.
My daughter hated it when Vladdy got rid of his. She loved the dreads hanging out.
He had the blonde tips. You got the blonde tips too. Yeah.
Anyone that doesn't know, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the star player for the Blue Jays. I'm a big Jays fan. My daughter's favorite player. If they don't resign him, there's going to be problems in my household.
Hey, I mean, I feel like the Blue Jays are kind of living up to that Toronto Maple Leaf name. Fantastic organization. Fabulous team, but just can't get over those humps, and that's unfortunate. Just like Nike, Neil, couldn't get into that gap area, right? Couldn't get over that hump, as you mentioned, around that $85 price target, and sure enough, coming slightly back in here around 83 and 78 cents on the sessions so far.
Just no follow through. No. And I'm going to place at least a small amount of blame on what the market did since yesterday. It's going to be a tricky one unless everything is perfect, for you to be able to hold some highs and for people to feel exuberance. Like after what we saw yesterday, how is there not going to be some profit taking? As far as I'm concerned, Micron's move got exacerbated by the price reaction after the Fed. You can make a strong argument that Nike, which is continuing to pull back here, now only up 8%, maybe that's going to be some profit takers as well. FedEx, I put in a different bucket. It lost a 300, but let's be real. It made a top, and then they gave the guidance, and now it's pulled back. Like that's as clear, to me, that's as clear as day. It was screaming on the announcement, and the big announcement from FedEx, of course, is spinning off the freight business. And in 18 months, they're expecting that to be publicly traded, much like GE, GE Verona and GE Aerospace and whatever the heck else they did. I think it was just,
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
it was
It's
just
like
the three,
GE
actually.
Electric too, and everything along.
But now you're 297.
There you
So congratulations. And again, I wasn't telling people to go short, so you guys make your own trade. Usually we tell you we don't think it's a great idea to trade in the aftermarket. We were just pointing out it double topped as you gave that guidance. So a bit of a pullback there on FedEx. So it's already 428. I got to try to adhere to when we're supposed to get everyone out of here, because I don't usually do. Sean's off today. I don't usually do the aftermarket show on Thursdays because I have physio on Thursdays. So I actually don't want to be late. I've already changed into my pants.
So you're ready to go. You're ready to get.
So I'm kind of more ready to go. It's a work in progress. Yeah. I'm going to make another attempt at the single leg calf raise, which we've been, we make at least one attempt per session. And it's embarrassing, but like it gets me motivation to even just get the heel off the ground a little bit there.
That's good.
But it just point me in direction. I like that I'm working towards.
Well, and that's the beauty thing. Those things take time to heal. There's no doubt about that. I had an ACL injury.
Yeah, you were telling me.
Way back in the day playing basketball, and it's like about a year you're not walking really. So those injuries, those serious injuries, take a lot of time.
Exactly. And they told me I'm not going to. My surgeon said it would take me 6 months to do a single leg calf raise. I'm at 5. My goal has been to beat what he said.
So there you go.
He's just a surgeon. What does he know about me, man? I got that Adrian Peterson.
Exactly.
It's already 4:30. I got to ask you a question, because usually I defer the roll call to Adara. So I haven't done a roll call in a while. It's up to you. I don't want to put you.
Hey! I'm in on Dara's spot, so I'm gonna take that role.
You want it?
I'm gonna do it. We're gonna do the roll call.
So before we get into it, I like to start off one way, because if you want to be part of the roll call and have Joe scream through all of the names in rapid fashion, you got to be in the chat. Otherwise, your name can't be read. So make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe. It's subscribers only chat. Get in the chat and start it by saying a thank you to some member of our team, whether it's Fabian, whether it's Ramin, whether it's Andre, who was off sick today, whether it's Obi filling in for Sean, whether it's Sean himself, who'll be back here tomorrow, whether it's Sharif doing a fantastic job on the midday, whether it's Adara, who, despite feeling sick, was still in this morning and giving us a half day. I have no idea how she did it. Or give it thanks to Brendan, or especially Joe, who's going to be doing triple duty here today. But I always tell you, Bears versus Bulls, the best moderator in the business. Give it that shout out and a thanks to him. That's who I'm going to type in right now. Is you get to the roll call.
Hey, let's go. Jay Haas, what's going on? Paul, 100 MPH. Drew, Jay Muck, Evan Campbell, Oliver, what's going on? Enchantress, Wonderland, Flawed, Maloney, Paul E, The Real Tech Geek, Bob S, Sebastian, Mike Breeze. Oh, I just see Neil in there. Yannick, Nesbeth, always see you in the chat there. Kyle, Burdett, our guy there. Let's see it. Darwin, The Diamond, love seeing you in there. T-Man, love it. Joseph Birch Music, loving it. Jay Lee, a regular, love seeing you in there. Paul, you're in there again. T-Man Money, and Yannick, you keep coming back in, but I'm going to keep shouting you out. Seeking Delta, I love this one. T-Man, Jimmy, Joe Smith, I know Jimmy James Smith, Seth, Steph O, Dwayne Walker, Bebop 5000, Relajo, Rickard Cabiza, and T-Man once again. That's roll call, folks.
This is why I let Adara and now Joe do it, because let's be real, man. You just absolutely crushed that. Shout out to all of you guys. We appreciate our community. We have the best trading community out there. And if you can't tell, we have fun doing this. Why? Because the markets are fun and because you guys are fantastic for us. I want to thank you for stepping in, Joe.
Thank you.
Adara was sick, and I'm like, hey, Joe, can you do the aftermarket show? And just like when Sean asked, he's like an instant yes.
Let's go. Let's rock and roll.
The fun part?
Yeah.
Okay, what do we get to do tomorrow? Come back and trade again.
Wow,
and
you had me stumped on that one.
I know.
I'm like, what do we get to do tomorrow?
It's witching.
Options. Witching.
It's post earnings of FedEx and Nike. We've got the addition of Palantir and MicroStrategy to the NASDAQ 100. We've got the deletions of SMCI and Moderna, and we'll have it all for you tomorrow starting at 8:30. Bye, guys.
That's sick stuff, brother. That was wicked.